7 ASA events, we've seen 5 different faces in victory lane. Today's stop is Jennerstown, where last year we found out anything can happen. Welcome to Jennerstown Speedway in the Laurel Highlands of Pennsylvania for live coverage of the Jennerstown 250 circuits around this half-mile. ASA will visit twice this coming season. 71 degrees this afternoon, a perfect afternoon after a rainy qualifying day yesterday. 30% humidity, but that wind, 20 miles per hour, pushing these cars down the front straightaway. It's mostly sunny, no chance of rain today. And welcome to the live broadcast. I'm Jim Trito along with Dave Burns this afternoon. And Dave, looking at how competitive this series is, Mike Eddy started this season with a victory, but he has yet to find victory lane again. 5 different winners enjoying the top spot.
Jim, we've always talked in ASA about how competitive things really are, how close the racing is. As we take a look at the points, we'll find that out. Gary St. Amant actually has won once, twice this year at Columbus. Actually was a winner at Columbus and walked away with a victory there. Sineker, Miller winners, Scott Hansen with 2 victories, and Mike Eddy, as you mentioned, taking the open win at the USA International in Florida. The margin of victory, it was half a second through 6 races. Then Bob Sineker kind of messed that up at Cedar Rapids. He had a 4-second victory over second place. About a third of the drivers have finished on the lead lap, and 48% of the drivers have finished in the top 10. Lead lap drivers as well, about 1/3 in ASA, which means a lot of guys are running near the top.
Here's a very critical part in the season, though. The next 8 weeks feature 8 AC-Delco Challenge Series races. So, Dave, looking at this stretch run, it's going to be all or nothing. Come 8 weeks from now, we'll see who has the gusto, who's prepared, I should say.
Now, it's going to be kind of crazy because some of these guys only come to the track with 1 car. None at home, no engines on the shelf at home. If that breaks, they're in big trouble. Some other teams are well stocked, but there are a lot of guys who are running pretty much week to week here in ASA. So it's going to be tough for them over this 8-week period to really hold things together.
Now, last season ended on quite a finale. It was the last lap of the last race. Joe Knott and Bob Sineker coming off of turn number 4. Joe Knott's race to lose. Sineker wanted the win across the finish line. This is to the checkers. Bob Sineker wins the race. Joe Knott had to settle for second, nearly his first career victory. They are now separated, ironically, by 1 point in the point standings, 4th and 5th. Let's bring in our 3rd member of the broadcast crew, Sandy Hang, to follow up on the story.
Well, I tell you what, today there is an unusual opportunity to settle the score. Joe Knott and Bob Sineker are nose to tail on the starting grid. And if there are lessons to be learned about last year, Bob Sineker may just be the one doing the teaching. What kind of tricks do you have up your sleeve today to get around Joe Knott?
Well, I got no tricks, just lots of experience, and I hope it pays off again today like it did last year.
When you're talking about experience, one thing we don't know about, an unknown quantity, the new tires and how they will react here in Jennerstown. What are you thinking about tire strategy?
Well, we're going to need more tires than we did last year, and I'm relying on my crew to take care of that job for me.
Okay, he will be relying heavily on his crew. Meanwhile, there is just 1 point separating this two in the points battle for championship, and Joe Knott is earnestly, eagerly wanting to be the one that comes out on top after the race. Joe, you want to rewrite last year. What are you going to do this year to make it a different ending for you and your team?
Well, I think we've got a good car today. I think we can bring the thing home in first place. It's just a matter of being consistent and not make the same mistake I made last year. Drove it into turn 1 a little bit too hard there on the last lap and let Bob get underneath me, and I'm not going to do the same thing this year. We had a good setup here on these Penske shocks. Goodyear's got us a great tire this weekend, and we're just looking forward to it. I'd like to say hi to everybody back home in Lima, Ohio and Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Okay, that's Joe Knott, who is the pole sitter today. Today, he does have a slight advantage.
Now here's a look at where Joe Knott's starting. Up front, his first career AC-Delco Challenge Series pole. Now as we look back through the field, we're looking for Gary St. Amant. He started no worse than 14th this season. He comes in this weekend with a point lead. He has the wins Ford starting 16th outside row 8, his worst start of the season, but his Ford will be charging to the front early on.
Well, there was a little speculation that they were a little bit nervous around the St. Amant pit, being only 7 points out ahead of second place Scott Hansen at this point in the season. We can see Sensiba having a solid year in third. Joe Knott, as we saw, he is running fourth and just 1 point ahead of fifth place running Bob Sineker at this point in the season. 6 through 10 look like this. Tony Raines with a good solid season. Mike Miller with 1 victory at I-70. Kevin Sawinski, the leading rookie in ASA competition, holding down 8th place. Brad Loney in 9th. And Mike Eddy, gee, Jim, when was the last time we saw Mike Eddy 10th placed in the points?
I don't think we have. His Pontiac scored the lone victory of the season for him earlier this season and the opener at Lakeland. But the Pontiac, Chevrolets, and Fords are oh so tough and oh so competitive this season. Pontiac has won the last 2 manufacturers' championships. Chevrolet won 2 in '92 and '93. Ford is looking for their first in some time. They're out ahead right now. And as you can see, well, actually, we're not showing you this, but they get 3 points for a victory here, 2 points for second, and 1 for third. So the Ford guys trying to stay on top here ahead of the other marks. Pontiac has 2 manufacturers' championships back-to-back. Now let's go down to Sandy Hang for those famous words in auto racing.
That's right. I'm here with Hal Matthews. He is with General Motors. He's the manager of motorsports, and I know it's time to get something going here.
Yes, it is. AC-Delco welcomes everyone to Jennerstown. Gentlemen, start your engines.
They fire the motors. The Jennerstown 250 about to get underway from Jennerstown, Pennsylvania. Stay tuned. The AC-Delco Challenge Series, live on TNN, is brought to you in part by Win Oil Company, makers of quality automotive car care products. Remember, when it's wins, it works. By your GM Goodwrench service dealer, we want your business. By the more than 1,350 AutoZone stores across America. AutoZone, the best parts in auto parts. And by Armor All Painted Wood Wash. Makes paint look great. We're about to get underway in the 8th race of the 1996 AC-Delco Challenge Series season. We see Alec Pinsonneau going by. A full field of 33 cars here this afternoon. 250 laps around this speed plant. Winning the AC Rapid Fire qualifications round. When $1,000 richer is Joe Knott, his first career pole. Dave Sensiba picked up $750 in free money thanks to AC Rapid Fire, and they award the top 3 in points, or top 3 qualifiers, I should say, some money.
Bob Sineker, the all-time winner in ASA on the inside of row number 2, and that great rookie we talked about, Kevin Sawinski, on the outside. He qualifies 4th.
In row 3, Scott Hansen, very confident driver, 2 wins this season. Brad Loney in his 78th ASA start. Could it be his day today in his Pontiac?
Row number 4, Mike Eddy starts on the inside, the all-time championship winner. He's looking for number 8 this year. It's going to be a tough row to hoe, 10th in points. And Mike Miller, the I-70 winner in the Car Cop and USA Team Handball Pontiac.
In the 9th starting position, Carl Muscat, he got sideways in qualifying, otherwise he would have been farther up on the grid. And Tony Raines, another Pontiac driver out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Row number 6 looks like this. Ted Smokestab with his first top 10 finish 2 weeks ago at Cedar Rapids. And Harold Fair, the veteran, on the outside in the AC-Delco CarQuest Pontiac.
Row 7, second in the rookie standings, Jack Landis. Outside, hometown driver Rick Miller in his 2nd season.
Row number 8, Bill Baird in the Chevrolet. And on the outside, Gary St. Amant in a Ford, our points leader.
In row 9, we find Tony Roper in the Child Star Chevrolet and Dr. Yale Conley, the vascular surgeon out of West Virginia.
Row 10, Brett Bell will start on the inside after a 4th place qualifying in Cedar Rapids. On the outside, Rick Beebe, the part-time driver with Mike Garvey in that St. Louis Gear Chevrolet.
We find 2 veterans starting 21st and 22nd, Tom Jones and the Gentle Giant Dennis Latman of the Barricade Flasher Chevrolet.
Row number 12, Dennis Berry on the inside. That rookie still looking for a breakthrough opportunity with his new crew chief, Jim Daly. And on the outside, Brandon Sperling. They've got some troubles after testing at Lancaster for a race coming up.
In row 13, Barry Audie, he's been the track champion here. He's rented Jim Daly's number 2 Pontiac. Outside will be Aaron Huff in his 3rd ASA start.
Starting 27th, Billy Turner on the inside in a Chevrolet. And on the outside, Kenny Swart making a rare appearance with the ASA in his 4th Thunderbird.
Row 15, we find Alec Pinsonneau and Bob Dorstwitz out of Waterville, Michigan.
Row number 16, Greg Freed on the inside. And on the outside, Randy Ruhlman making his first ASA start in 1996.
And in row 17, Robbie Pyle in number 62. His car looks a lot like Gary St. Amant's. As a matter of fact, Gary owns the car. Robbie is in a team car this afternoon. And it wins forward.
Jim, that's kind of a neat story. Robbie Pyle starting shotgun on the field. Gary St. Amant gave him a call and said, Robbie, how'd you like to come out and be kind of an R&D show for me with a second car out here? Didn't help Robbie a whole lot, and Gary qualified 16th, so I'm not sure if it worked, but we'll see how things progress throughout the afternoon.
And again, we come back to this Jennerstown Speedway October 13th. the second race on this half-mile oval. 9-degree turns. Dave, it's a pretty wide racetrack.
They'll have a lot of room to race out here. In fact, Tony Roper predicted they might even be able to see 3-wide racing because they put some stick-em like they use in the drag racing series. I believe it's called VHT in the turns here for their weekly shows, and it'll pay off today.
Let's head down to Sandy Hang.
Well, right now, we've got 19 cars that broke the previous track record, and there are some reasons for that. A lot of the crews down here say the sealant that they are using on the track has a lot of grip. They really like it. It helps them move around in the corners, gives them some bite, gives them some traction that they need. That one of the factors that's improving those times. Also, the new tires that we're using this year also have a huge factor here in Jennerstown. The sealant, though, they like it here.
On the turn number 4, looking for the start of the Jennerstown 250. Joe Knott and Dave Sensiba bring the field down. 33 strong, hit the front stretch. Turn 1, Joe Knott is the race leader as the speed cam shows you how fast these guys are going. 100 miles per hour average on this flat half mile. Joe Knott the early leader, followed by Dave Sensiba, Kevin Sawinski, and Bob Seneker. Scott Hansen early in the top 5.
Sensiba using a little bit of a lower line than Joe Knott, not taking kind of that midline right now as they run by. Sawinski and Seneker also kind of down low. It looks like now like Joe Knott is taking a bit higher than the rest of the competitors.
7th place up for grabs now between Mike Eddy and Mike Miller. They started side by side. They have yet to relinquish a position. Either of those Pontiac drivers not willing to cooperate as they run side by side. Mike Miller may be testing the outside groove, but look at this battle down the front stretch, Dave. They're not giving an inch.
And remember, Jim, these two Pontiacs got together at Indianapolis Raceway Park. We never saw the incident on replay, but Mike Eddy was quick to point out that Mike Miller was the guy that caused him to wreck his Pontiac.
Mike Eddy 10th in points, 290 points out of the lead. I think has a little bit of concern on his mind right now. We're only 8 races into the season. 20 make up the entire schedule, but as he runs behind Brad Loney there in the GM Goodwrench Service Pontiac, he, I think, would want to get to the front and lead a bunch of laps here. 5 extra points for the leader of the most laps in this race today.
Joe Knott continues to pace. Dave Sensiba continuing to run. Now he's running a little bit higher, too, and Sawinski takes that very low line.
5 laps are in, and the field is pretty well strung out, single file, but they're not too far from each other. As you can see, the top 5 well in view here. Joe Knott, a simple 2-car length lead. That's about all there is. Back to 11th position distance between the cars. Dave Sensiba, the West Michigan Chevrolet dealers, number 4, qualifying again in the top 5. That's his 6th effort in the top 5 in qualifications.
Sensiba is having a solid year, to be sure. They run a second car every once in a while, and that gives them some research and development ideas. That car has been run this year by Kenny Irwin mostly.
And a car having problems that's just getting back under power is Brandon Sperling. He was on the parade lap in the pit area, and now Robbie Pyle also visits pit lane, as the leaders continue to battle here. Now up to speed is Brandon Sperling in his Ultra Custom Wheels Monte Carlo. He is not up to speed yet. They've had motor problems in that 15 car.
Yeah, Jim, we mentioned they in Lancaster Speedway testing for a race later on this year blew a motor. They put one in this weekend, and Brandon noticed right away there was a cracked flywheel, and they didn't think they were going to make more than a couple of laps here this afternoon. Big disappointment. He feels like they're on the upswing after taking over that ride halfway through the season. Randy and Mary Ellen, of course, disappointed, and it's Brandon's mom's birthday, so that's on the hood, and unfortunately couldn't have a better showing. They were disappointed for that, but here again is the leaders, Joe Knott, Dave Sensiba, and rookie Kevin Sawinski. He's never been here before, but he sure is strong in the early laps. Look at Sawinski pressure there. He is working all over the back end of Dave Sensiba, and Jim, you know he's a winner. We knew that too. He's won in Artco competition and was a former champion there. He's looking for his first victory in ASA, but he's all over the back end of Dave Sensiba. We saw a car go in off the backstretch. That was Robbie Pyle in the team car to Gary St. Amant, so it was not the point leader. If you were sitting back home in Columbus, Ohio, saying, wait a minute, there goes Gary. He went in the pits. As the lead heats up here, this is for second now. Sensiba and Sawinski, with Sawinski looking inside. Sawinski's going to take a look, but Sensiba closes the door on him. It's a little bit early to be racing too close here, but these guys trust each other. They know that they can race extremely close without having a mishap. We'll see how long that lasts right here. We mentioned it's 71 degrees, a breezy afternoon down the backstretch. It's a 20-mile-per-hour headwind. Sawinski not wasting any time. They weren't worried about tire wear, so perhaps Sawinski's looking to see where he can pass this early in the event. Sensiba continues to run a little bit of that high line, the same line that your leader, Joe Knott, is running. Scott Hansen now looking a little bit to the low side of Bob Seneker as well, just behind him. So
this again, the battle for second. They started second and fourth, and quickly Sawinski worked around Bob Seneker. And as they come down the front stretch, they are now at least a half a straightaway behind Joe Knott, so the leader has opened up a lead. A couple laps ago, here's Gary St. Amant entering turn number 1. Again, he started 16th on the afternoon. He's running the outside line outside of Rick Miller. As we look at the replay here, off of turn number 2, a little bit wide. Take a look at that as Tony Roper goes underneath and Brett Bell takes a look.
Wow, squeezed him just a little bit up there. You know, Jim, it's not that unusual to see Gary St. Amant high here at Jennerstown like that. He has always run, since they've been running here at Jennerstown, a higher line than the rest of the competitors, trying to gain an advantage throughout the race, and it's paid off for him. Mostly he's had some good finishes here.
Gary St. Amant again the point leader by just 7 points after qualifications over Scott Hansen. Hansen picking up more bonus points. The top 5 each get 1 through 5 points. The pole winner gets 5. That count towards the championship.
Jim, we had a report from the pits on Robbie Pyle's second car from Gary St. Amant. They have a vibration in that car, and it appears that they have parked it.
Look at Mike Eddy come through now. We mentioned he started well back next to Mike Miller in 7th position, but now he's in the top 5, looking to get inside Hansen. He has the position in the black 88. Now Sawinski may be the jam car as he files in behind Dave Sensiba to protect third. Hansen now uses the outside.
Hansen decided to go. It was time. Mike Eddy was there, and he uses that outside groove, and it sticks.
They get together momentarily. Sensiba had to crank the wheel to the right to hold off Hansen. He doesn't. He regathers, but Hansen again on the outside. We mentioned there's some sealer down that's actually increased the traction, and Sensiba a little bit off in turn number 2 will give up 2 spots as Mike Eddy follows Scott Hansen into the top 3 in the Jennerstown 250. 17 laps now complete.
Sensiba has a little bit of body work hanging off the right rear side there now, so somebody has gotten into the back of Dave Sensiba, if ever so lightly.
Scott Hansen did nudge him as he came off of turn number 4 a lap and a half ago. Now we see Kevin Sawinski saying, I think I'll try the outside. It's only a half-mile speedway, 100-mile-an-hour average. That rear bumper cover should not play a major factor in aerodynamics, but it may be another problem for Sensiba as he loses position to Kevin Sawinski now. He's running in 5th.
Sawinski taking over that spot, driving his way through. You know, Jim, if Dave Sensiba has set up for the low line, he may need a pit stop here before that car becomes really competitive.
A couple of cars slowing entering turn number 1 as we follow Mike Miller now in the 18 car. Here's your leader, Joe Knott in the red and white Raby Ford. 5th place is Dave Sensiba. 6th now is Brad Loney.
Right behind him, Tony Range has moved up from his 10th place starting pot to go into 7th.
Joe Knott the leader from the pole. 20 laps are in the Jennerstown 250. Hansen in 2nd. Sawinski crawling up onto Mike Eddy for 3rd. Welcome back to Jennerstown, where Joe Knott now finds himself in 3rd place. Scott Hansen forged his way past on the outside of Knott a lap ago as we just come back to green, or excuse me, as we stay under green. Then a lap later, Mike Eddy takes the lead. So now the driver out of Michigan, 7-time ASA champ, assumes the point here.
Jim, here's the replay where Mike Eddy followed Scott Hansen around Joe Knott, not on the inside, going down the backstretch and into turn number 3. You see Hansen just powers by, and Mike Eddy follows right behind him. And Eddy will look to take the lead from Scott Hansen. Eddy with 3 victories here at Jennerstown. And we're going to look at Mike going to the low side here. So we're really seeing that Eddy's car, unfortunately for the rest of the competition here today, Jim, it looks like he can run on the high side or the low side.
And Dave Burns, it was that quick as Mike Eddy went right by the inside. Here's the battle for 6 as we come back to live action here on TNN. It's Brad Loney to the inside and Tony Raines as they try to battle behind Dave Sensiba. Sensiba started outside pole, but now he's drifted back to 5th. Side by side for 6th with the Pontiacs. 3 of them coming off of turn number 2. 87 is Tony Raines. 18 is Mike Miller. 33 is the Bun Saver Pontiac up Brad Loney, but don't count on Jack Landis, the rookie in the Maisto Ford. He's now making a charge.
Landis's team, the Maisto Noah Yoder team, has done well here in the past. The first time the American Speed Association came here with driver Todd Forbes and a V8 motor, one of the last years they were legal, they sat on the pole. So that team has a lot of experience here.
Great charge for the rookie. Jack Landis out of Ohio coming through now off of turn number 4. 32 laps complete.
Loney trying to come back from disappointment at Cedar Rapids. It doesn't look like he has anything for Jack Landis here as he continues to drift backward just a bit. They weren't really disappointed with their showing at Cedar Rapids. It was just, you know, they didn't want to be too cliche-ish, one of those racing things, but they're ready to get back on it, and it doesn't look like a great start today for the Bun Saver team either.
Going through traffic now, Billy Turner and Alec Benson will lie ahead of this pack. This is the battle for 5th. Dave Sensiba in the Handy Wax Chevrolet. Cleanburn Pontiac of Tony Raines, and the 18, the Car Cop car of Mike Miller. Working through traffic, we'll see if Sensible will get challenged again here as Raines has a lower position behind the lap car. The silver car there, Billy Turner out of Oklahoma. The Santa Fe Chevrolet.
Yeah, Jim, Tony Raines is trying to make a big impression today for folks in the Lancaster County area here from Cleanburn. Morris Manti and the people who sponsor his car from Cleanburn have about 50 people in the stands today cheering Tony on, hopefully to victory here this afternoon.
Sensible a little bit loose off of turn number 2 that time. He had to gather it back in, but Tony Raines was worried about Mike Miller momentarily. Leader here is Mike Eddy. Back to Scott Hansen. Here's the battle for third. Joe Knott, the pole sitter, holding off Kevin Sawinski. Sawinski now in the Coleman Racing Products, number 1. Right on the tail of Joe Knott, who was ever so close to winning here a year ago. Ford versus Chevy battle down the backstretch here.
Really on the edge now and around a place like this. Not a lot of banking to hold the cars down here at Jennerstown, so it's really a grip factor. There's a new compound tire with Goodyear. That's helping a little bit. As well, the Stickum that Sandy talked about, the track being tacky that way. So there's quite a bit of grip, but again, no real banking that helps Sawinski try to get around Joe Knott.
Sawinski's going to have to do with horsepower. It looks like as Joe Knott again down to the very inside. Sawinski looks low entering the turn, but then files in behind. Does not have quite enough to pass that forward. And Joe Knott's been ever so quick and so close to his first victory this season. I think it's getting to the guys a little bit that they know they run strong each and every week. And now we see Sawinski again. Looking to the inside, nothing there. And Tony Raines has gotten by Dave Sensiba, as has Mike Miller in the Team USA handball car.
Miller started 8th and now moves around and into the position right behind Tony Raines.
Talking to Mike Miller before the race, he said he thinks his friends on the USA Team handball team are competing this weekend as the Olympics started today. His thoughts are with them as he's racing here in Jennerstown.
Here goes Sawinski. He's going to try the high side now. See if his Coleman Racing Products Brown and Sharp Chevrolet will do it, and it does, right around Joe Knott.
Now third is Kevin Sawinski. Fourth is Joe Knott. As your leaders are Mike Eddy, the GM Goodwrench Service Pontiac, and Scott Hansen running second. Mike Eddy in search of his second victory here at Jennerstown Speedway as the 8th event of the 1996 schedule is underway. Yet to have a caution after 44 circuits. Early race leader was Joe Knott from the pole. For a lap, it was Scott Hansen, and then half a lap later, Mike Eddy took over on lap 27 and has the point now. He has led more laps, twice as many laps as anyone here at Jennerstown Speedway. This is the 9th visit to this speedway for the American Speed Association. And Mike Eddy has enjoyed much success and a lot of good runs here. He's one of 2 3-time winners on this speedway.
And when Mike Eddy dominates at a track, Jim, he's awfully hard to beat. He's that much tougher than on any given Saturday or Sunday.
He likes to lead a lot of laps. Let's get an update with Sandy Hang in the pits.
Well, right now I am standing by with Brandon Sperling. You're looking at this happy birthday, Mom. Kind of a tough luck, his mom Karen's birthday today. I tell you what happened? I knew you had a sneaking suspicion you wouldn't be able to finish, but what happened?
Well, yesterday we had problems all day long. We thought it was a starter, and we changed that last night, and then we changed the transmission. We changed everything we thought was wrong with it. We thought we had it fixed, and apparently we did, and we went out and it started knocking again, and we didn't want to hurt the motor too bad, so we brought it in early.
Okay, an early end, but a big happy birthday to his mother.
Race leader Mike Eddy now going by Carl Muscotten, who had qualified 9th, but apparently the handle is off on the Odessa Chevrolet. Scott Hansen now working past him as well. As we see in turns 3 and 4, Muscotten has drifted back 20 cars now, unofficially on lead lap. 33 cars started the event. Mike Eddy trying to slice his way through the field and put some distance on the rest of the competitors. Eddy's had his troubles this year. He has 1 win, the season opener. He's only finished on lead lap in 4 events this season out of 7. That is a rarity, I should say, for Mike Eddy. 7-time series champion, very dominant, sitting 10th in the points. Gary Sainamont with an 8-point lead, coming in a 7-point lead now over Scott Hansen.
Look at this, Jim. Bob Sineker all the way back now to 11th place. He started in 3rd on the inside of row number 2, right behind Joe Knott, and he scooted all the way back to 11th. Early problems for him. Remember, he's running 5th in points and does not need a bad day at this point in the season.
With the cool temperatures, perhaps the drivers went with a softer setup, thinking the tires would hold underneath them, but there has been a lot of side-by-side racing. He goes now around the Saturn Machine Chevrolet of Bill Baird.
And he's chasing down Harold Fair right in front of him in the CarQuest AC-Delco Pontiac. veterans back there racing side by side with one of last year's rookies. That would be Bill Baird, and Bill's getting a lot more respect from the guys this year. They race hard together.
2 victories this season as Bob Seneker's home track at Berlin Raceway, a very popular win.
See Tony Roper hanging on right behind him, trying to put a move on the Bluebird, as they call Bob. Roper in the Child's Tire Chevrolet, trying to make things happen here. Tony is one of those guys with one race car right now, and he is trying to keep everything together over these next 8 weeks so as not to have a break in his ASA season.
As you watch the Bluebird, the winningest driver in ASA, he also picked up the victory at Cedar Rapids 2 weeks ago here live on TNN. He always sneaks his way through the field, but it looks like he's having his problems early on here.
Good battle right here, Jim, for 5th place. Joe Knott is being pressured now by Mike Miller. They just put a lap on Barry Audi in the number 2 car. And here comes Knott down into turn number 3 with Miller all over the back end.
Notice how fast Mike Miller gets in the corner. He knows exactly where Joe Knott is braking. He's followed him for a number of laps. Even if he's faster, Dave, you would think that he want to blow by him, but I think he wants to see what he has first. Here's the battle now as Mike Miller says the outside might work for this pass.
He's going to get him coming off of turn number 2. Knott stays down to the inside. Joe hasn't driven anybody hard. He knows the capabilities of his car right now, and it's not to lead this thing. Mike Miller's going to get by on the outside.
Mike Miller now to 5th in the Car Cop Pontiac. The international surveillance service you can use in your car. It's a global satellite system, Car Cop is, so they can pick your car out. If it's stolen anywhere in the world, they'll find it for you.
And a funny story, too, the USA Team handball sponsorship on his car. I was opening a Coca-Cola with some friends the other day who are with this series, and they pulled off the cap, and it said, if USA Team handball wins, you win. So we thought maybe Mike Miller ought to have that.
Mike Eddy has led since the 27th circuit. We're approaching lap 60 in the Jennerstown 250. Beautiful afternoon for racing here in Jennerstown. Welcome back to Jennerstown Speedway in Jennerstown, Pennsylvania, about an hour southeast off the turnpike here in Pennsylvania, out southeast of Pittsburgh. Beautiful central Pennsylvania landscape here. Nestled in the Laurel Highlands is Jennerstown Speedway. The Lasky family very involved with all forms of racing here at this half mile. Mike Eddy, your race leader. Race has stayed green since the inception. Joe Knott was the leader. Hansen saw a sneak peek of the front. He's now trying to chase him down. Here's the battle for 11th. There's Tony Roper, but more importantly, there's Gary St. Amant. He started 16th this afternoon. He's now advanced just 4 positions early on. He may be hoping for a pit stop as his team is extremely quick on pit stops. He'll have to take some advantage there as he's now just trying to work around the lap car of Tom Jones. Let's check in with Sandy Hang.
Well, St. Amant's team tells me he developed a tight situation early on, and he's just riding it out right now, waiting for that pit stop so they can correct it.
Some teams are planning 2 pit stops. I talked to a driver by the name of Rick Miller. He's hoping to maybe make it on 1 pit stop. So I think St. Amant would like a pit stop soon to make an adjustment.
Here's Brad Loney, Jim, and apparently a couple of laps ago, Brad got just a little bit out of shape. We're going to take a look at that right now. Going into turn number 2 and nearly collects the wall on the top side.
Wow. Lost 2 positions there. Got back to, I believe, he was in 8th or 9th, and he dropped a couple of spots. Obviously, his dirt track experience at Cedar Rapids before they paved it came in handy there.
There's a lot of people probably waiting for that first yellow flag, Jim, or a chance to come in and change something. We've seen Loney out of shape all over the place. A few people going backwards. Here's a great battle for 8th place between Ted Smokestad and Harold Fair.
Bob Seneker now slows on the backstretch. The Bluebird has let Kenny Sword go by. Again, he started 3rd. He was back to 11th. Now he's well back in the pack, and he slows even more in the JR Automation Lane Automotive Ford. He was 18th last time we checked, 1 lap down, so he's already lost a lap to leader Mike Eddy.
Last time down into turn number 3, I thought I saw him lock up the brakes on the front end a little bit too, so the car not handling exactly the way Bob would have it right now.
A caution would help him greatly, but again, he's already lost a lap, so we'll see if he will find his way down pit lane. Let's check in with Sandy. What's the story?
Well, with Bob Seneker's crew, they're scrambling around here. Apparently, he has a front brake problem, and they're trying to figure out what exactly they're going to do when he comes in to try to correct it.
The drivers in the cockpit have a control of front brake or back brake. They can bias how much pressure goes to the front, how much pressure is distributed to the rear, and apparently there's a problem for Seneca's brakes. And here, Dave, it's such a flat track. How important are the brakes?
They're very important. They've all been working on ducting. Tom Jones this morning was putting more ducting toward his front brakes at this place. So you have to go down in there and stomp on it pretty good, although you don't want to take all of your momentum away. You still want it to roll through the corners, but they definitely want to get as much venting on the brakes as possible.
Here we pick up the battle for 5th. They look a lot alike, but one's a Ford. It's Joe Knott in front. And the veteran Mike Miller out of Marietta, Georgia. Miller now looking for yet another run at the top 5. Here he is working to the outside now. Joe Knott.
I think Mike surprised a lot of people at I-70, Jim. I think he's been such a consistently strong runner that no one necessarily expected him to all of a sudden be in victory lane at I-70, and yet there he was at the end, almost like his old buddy Bob Sineker.
It's impressive for Mike Miller. He is now 7th in ASA points as he battles Joe Knott here for 5th in the car number 18. Mike Miller has scored the most points of any driver the last 3 races. Here, Joe Knott, you can see, started on the pole. He's now working behind Carl Muscat, and it looks like Seneca now has gone down perhaps even a 2nd lap as they're about to approach the Bluebird. In the battle here, Mike Miller currently 6th, trying to break into the top 5.
You know, as they try to get around Muscatin, who has now gone to the outside of Bob Sineker and then Odessa Carbright Chevrolet. Muscatin started 8th today, another great qualifying run, or I'm sorry, 9th today, another great qualifying run, but has dropped back out of the top 20.
This is the battle off of turn number 2. Joe Knott in 5th, Mike Miller in 6th. Perched in 7th is Dave Sensiba. 8th is Ted Smokestad. 9th is Harold Fair. 10th is Brad Loney. They're all stacked up right behind him, single file going through traffic.
Now, Jim, we haven't had a yellow yet today, and at Cedar Rapids.
Trouble in turn number 2 as you say that.
Wouldn't you know?
The leaders lock it up for Dave's. Oh, Smokestead goes around. Very tight quarters there. Bob Dorstwitz and the Lane Automotive Chevrolet out of Watervliet, Michigan, spins the Engineer Polymer Chevrolet.
Oh, that's a bad spot, and Ted Smokestad tried to save it, and just at the end there, got into the back end of Derstowitz.
That's where spotters play such an important role. Through turn number 2, it's so flat, and you're running side by side with lap traffic.
And I wonder what they were all looking at, Jim, because Joe Knott had to lock up his brakes, Mike Miller had to lock him up. They weren't too far ahead of that action, so the spotters must have been focused on the opposite end of the track.
Well, these drivers get in such a rhythm. I mean, we've had 80 laps of green flag racing. Running nose to tail was Joe Knott and Mike Miller. We saw them lock the brakes up to try to avoid each other and avoid the incident. It's to the point now where they really got in a rhythm, and now it's all of a sudden there's a car sideways in front of them, and it's going to be wholesale pit stops as we see Gary St. Amant, thanks to the accordion effect of the problems over in turn number 2, has some body damage. Point leader St. Amant is going to pit along with a host of other cars.
I think the very first opportunity, we've been green all the way, and our first yellow comes out because of the spin of Bob Dorstwitz down in turn number 2. And Sandy is down in the leader's pit, Mike Eddy.
They did not get all the fuel they wanted in that gas nozzle. They took out 2 right side tires, as are most of the people down here in pit road. Today they're going to be riding a new chapter with these tires. They know a lot about them, but not a lot about them in these types of cool temperatures. They're working on the Gary St. Amant car. Remember, they're trying to correct that tight situation for him. As far as, he also has some damage, but as far as the tires go, you know, it used to be here, track position was more important than fresh tires, but today, we could see fresh tires very, very important.
That's a great point, Sandy. I mean, I think the main thing is that they're an unknown factor right now, Jim. They really don't know what is going to happen with these new Goodyear Racing Eagles here at Jennerstown.
Here's a replay of what happened. Bob Dorstwitz in the white Chevrolet number 25 is who we're looking for. He's already on the brake sideways. You see Mike Miller did get in the backside of Joe Knott as they slid around. There's Smokestead and Sensiba get together. Smokestead really had no path through there as the rest of the field was on the binders. Here's look at Mike Eddy going through this. He's right behind Dennis Latman. And as they come through turn 2, Latman's on the brake. And Mike Eddy slows to about 20 miles per hour as he sees 2 cars in front of him. So a good break there for Mike Eddy. Well, he'll take every good break he can get this season. 10th in points, and we haven't seen him down there in quite some time. But a good pit work. Mike Eddy, 2 fresh right side tires. And we're coming back to Jennerstown Speedway for the Jennerstown 250. Stay tuned. Under caution for the first time this afternoon, there's Roger Slack, the official starter for ASA, bringing the field past the start-finish line as the track has been cleaned up in turn number 2. The leaders have made their pit stops. Glad to have you along, Jim Trado and Dave Burns here in the booth. Sandy Hang on pit lane, and there's Mike Miller, the car cop Pontiac. Let's go down to Sandy for the story.
Well, right now his crew chief Carl Hyland is having a few words with ASA officials. They pulled Mike in. We wondered why he was ducking in a second time, but ASA told him, come in, you've got a stop and go penalty for going too fast on pit road. The speed limit here is 35 miles an hour, and it's a very cramped situation, and drivers are so anxious to get out and get out of the congestion because it can make a huge difference in track position. But a stop and go for Mike Miller.
That absolutely killed Mike Miller. He came out 5th. He was the second car out of the pits behind Mike Eddy. There were 3 cars that stayed on racetrack without coming down pit lane. Leader will be Scott Hansen, followed by Harold Fair, who started 12th, and Tony Roper. When we get back to green, but you see Mike Miller now at the very end of this single file restart.
Jim Roper running 3rd now. We watched that replay, and unbelievably, Tony was one of the guys that got by on the high side. For once, Tony Roper doesn't get involved in the accident. Good job, Tony.
Hard luck driver of a year ago, 8 DNFs. He's looking for a good run here. He's really had a good season since Berlin, so he's looking for better things here. As we get back under green, 87 laps are complete. Lap 88 will be complete this time by Scott Hansen, the 3rd race leader. Reassumes the point. Mike Eddy made a way down pit lane. We'll see if Hansen's tires stay underneath the Wisconsin Aviation AFCO Chevrolet as the field streams through turn 1.
Rick Beebe in the St. Louis gear, number 23, is a lap down, Jim. He's going to try to get back on the lead lap before Hansen gets away, and they are on equal tires. Neither one of them pitted.
Rick Miller a lap down as well, as running in the third position, I should say, but again, he has a lap down, unofficially scored in the 13th position. Hansen breaking away. The lap car of Rick Beebe, who will be out of this ride for the next 2 races. He's sharing the season with Mike Garvey. He'll be back at Berlin Raceway August 10th when the American Speed Association visits that Grand Rapids Oval.
Yeah, Rick's going to run a truck next week, I understand, at I-70 Speedway. That'll be a lot of fun for him.
Hansen, the race leader, looking for his 3rd victory this year. He's finished 3rd in points in ASA 4 times. Never a champion. Here's Mike Eddy, a 7-time champion. Making his way through around Tony Roper for 3rd now. Here comes Kevin Sawinski again. Those 2 black cars pitted. Roper stayed on the track for position. Now Dave Sensiba will join in that chase. Soon he'll relegate the Childs Tire Chevrolet. The 2nd generation driver, Tony Roper, back another spot, but Roper fighting back.
Roper trying to hang on, but he is going to fall victim, I believe, to Dave Sensiba as well. Those 2 Chevrolets head down into turn number 1. Sensiba's going to have to go back to the outside now, trying to get around Tony Roper for 5th.
Good battle here. You see Joe Knott lurking in the background there as he's trying to work to the outside, figuring out which is the faster line through, and it will be the outside for Dave Sensiba, the West Michigan Chevrolet dealers, number 4. Here comes Joe Knott, Lima, Ohio driver, on the pole for the first time, very confident coming into this weekend, but I think a little uptight about not getting a win yet this season, with crew chief Chris Bradley and the entire team poised for victory.
Look at Harold Fair in the CarQuest Pontiac there. Harold hanging on to, I believe it's 3rd place right now. Here Sensiba was going to try to get underneath him, but Fair having a good run so far. After a good qualifying run for Harold, he started 12th today on the grid.
Holding on is the right terminology, as his 4 tires are all the same from the start. Dave Sensiba fresh right side tires makes it by easily that time. Harold was 2nd behind Scott Hansen, but now it's going to be a different story, as Hansen will soon have pressure from Mr. Eddy.
Harold's only had 1 top 10 finish so far in 1996. He's had 5 victories in his career, so they're really trying to come out of that slump. Of course, one of the major factors was that first race of the year crash in practice at USA International.
Harold maintains 5th position. You see he's got a little room back to Joe Knott. In 4th is car number 4, Dave Sensiba. Ahead of him, the black number 1 of Kevin Sawinski. Rates him for Scott Lefevre. Here is the battle for the lead now. Hansen in traffic with Mike Eddy in his rear view mirror, and that is not a good sign for Hansen. Hansen's got, again, 4 tires on since the start. Mike Eddy fresh right side, good years.
Wow, a lot of traffic in front of them. Billy Turner, Greg Freed, Bob Dorstowitz. They have to go around to the high side of all of them.
That may help Hansen for the time being, but let's check in his pit with Sandy Hang.
Right now, his crew members are timing him, and they're afraid that he could be slipping just a little. This is part of their strategy. They did not come in for tires, trying to pick up track position, trying to stay in front, and it may not be working for him right now.
It'll depend. The sun has shone since the start of this event. It was partly cloudy this morning, but the forecast doesn't call for too many more clouds in this blue sky in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Jim, they just went around Alec Pinsino, who told us that coming here in his big rig, he said there was a lot of rain on our way out here to the race today. And they said when it's pouring down rain and it looks like rivers going uphill up the mountains,
he's going to try it.
Pretty wild.
He's going to try it. Mike Eddy does make the pass. Lap 100 even. And Mike Eddy's the new race leader. Hansen yet to pit now. Running second in the red, white, blue Chevrolet. Mike Eddy led early on. He's now led over 1,000 laps in 9 races here at Jennerstown Speedway. The crew is mulling it over as they remain on the green here in Jennerstown. Welcome back to Jennerstown Speedway. Live coverage of the American Speed Association on the Nashville Network. Mike Eddy retakes the lead, a familiar position for Eddy. 3 times as many laps led here as Bob Senecker. Both have won 3 races here. That gives you an idea how dominant Mike Eddy can be on this half-mile oval. He leads now. He had a second lead advantage, 1 second over Scott Hansen. But through lap traffic now, you see Hansen's red, white, blue Chevrolet has closed the gap again. But Eddy on newer tires will open that gap back up with clean racetrack heading into turn number 3 here in Jennerstown. In second is Scott Hansen. The lap car, the yellow car in the middle is Rick Beebe. He is a lap down. In position number 3 is Dave Sensiba. He's behind Hansen. Mike Eddy's enjoyed success, but he's also enjoyed some heartbreak this season. Mike Eddy finished a disappointing 33rd at Hawkeye Downs after a pit road incident. He also has a 28th and a 29th place finish this season, mixed in with 3 top 10s.
Jim, let's keep our eye on Mike Eddy now. Rick Beebe really putting the pressure on. Is Mike Eddy slowing down? Scott Hansen is right there waiting in the wings, but Beebe able to apply significant pressure now to race leader Mike Eddy. And Mike Eddy at times has run as fast as he's needed to run, but I don't think he's doing it this time around. I think Rick Beebe on older tires may have a better long run. Scott Hansen is also coming back towards the front with fresher right side tires. Perhaps Mike Eddy had an advantage. Now it's evening out again. Very finicky, the air pressures and the setups on these race cars. A lot of things you can change, and also minor changes make a big difference. Dave Sensiba looks very hooked up right now there in 3rd. He's moving in on Scott Hansen and running that low line, trying to get the short way around the Jennerstown Speedway.
Dave Sensiba now climbing up in the fight as well, and Sensiba's having a great year. Finished 30th at Lakeland, hasn't been out of the top 5 since, except for Berlin, his home track, where he started on the pole and finished 11th. Now we see the lap car of Rick Beebe getting back on lead lap. Here's the battle for Hansen and Sensiba. They're running 2nd and 3rd behind Eddy. Great racing action here in the American Speed Association, the premier short track racing in the country. Right here, Sensiba goes back around Scott Hansen. He finally gets 2nd spot as the Chevrolet of Sensiba is on the move.
Scott gave him a lot of room, Jim, and we noticed that Kevin Sawinski, when Sensiba was passing him for, I think it was 5th place, kind of nudged Mr. Sawinski to get around out of turn number 2. And Kevin got momentarily high, and Dave given a lot more room by Scott Hansen on that pass.
Here's the battle for 8th. Tony Raines a little bit sideways, and here comes Tony Roper. Roper changed the colors of this car from white to black a season ago to change his luck. It didn't do it, but it sure is working today as the contrasting colors, the black and the blue of Tony Roper, working by. Here we go up front now. Mike Eddy and Dave Sensiba, 2 drivers out of Michigan. Berlin Raceway, their home track. With respect and position, Dave Sensiba, the junior statesman out of Michigan, moves around the veteran Mike Eddy to take the lead. 118 circuits in the Jennerstown 250.
Wow, Sensiba looks strong right now, Jim.
Sensiba is extremely strong. He and Mike Eddy both pitted for tires on lap 81. So they were pretty equal at that point, but Sensiba has been fast all season long. He's finished 3rd 3 times this year. He had the pole here in his rookie year in 1994. Let's get up to date with Sandy Haig.
Well, I was just talking to Sensiba's crew. He's been contemplating this move for a few laps right now. He was confident he could get around them, but he didn't know if he should press the issue when he finally decided, hey, I'm going to go for it.
Well, he pressed the button and got around him in fine fashion. Rick Beebe now is in danger of going a lap down once again in the yellow number 23 right in front of him. He had gotten back on the tail end of the lead lap, and here goes Sensiba down to the inside to try to put him back down.
Wow, Billy Turner there, a pick momentarily, and Beebe has extremely smooth driving style, goes into turn number 3, works well ahead of Dave Sensiba. I think it's a matter of time, though. As we mentioned, Beebe has yet to pit. Sensiba, the race leader, right behind in the white number 4. Bud Kevin and his car are very confident about how their season has gone, and you should be very proud of the results of that team.
Maybe driving it hard out of shape in turns 1 and 2. Driving it in very deep. And since we're running that low line, Jim, he's probably going to use it to get by Beebe as well. Unless, of course, traffic. And Jack Landis now goes at least 1 lap down. He was running pretty strong. Remember, he's chasing Kevin Sawinski for that rookie title in the 07 Noah Yoder Ford.
Rick Beebe may be holding up this lead train. Kevin Sawinski has climbed in now as the top 4 cars follow the St. Louis Gear Chevrolet of Rick Beebe. Beebe slides up. Here we go. The door is open, and it may close quickly on Rick Beebe's chances of staying on lead lap. Now Mike Eddy goes to the inside. So Sensiba has clean racetrack ahead of him. Mike Eddy now working around Rick Beebe. Can Hansen do the same?
Here comes Kevin Sawinski as well.
Mike Eddy running running second, trying to get that top spot away from fellow Michigander Dave Sensiba. Hansen, Sawinski, and Knott round of the top 5 as we continue on to green at Jennerstown. Dave Sensiba, the race leader, ahead of Mike Eddy. Growing up, Dave Sensiba watched, studied, and followed Mike Eddy's career. He finally got his chance to drive. He's become a race track champion at Berlin Raceway. Made the move to the American Speed Association with car owner Bud Kevin in 1994 after limited starts in ASA. Prior to that, won the Pat Shar Memorial Rookie of the Year chase, beating out Brian Refter, the 1995 series champion. This is the battle for 6th. CarQuest Pontiac of Harold Fair staying in the top 10 all afternoon long. A great run for Harold Fair to Detroit, Michigan. Holding off the Bun Saver Flex Steel 33 of Brad Loney. 6th and 7th here on the racetrack. Harold Fair, his 230th start this afternoon in American Speed Association competition. 5 victories for the veteran driver. His son Harold Fair Jr. is crew chief, also a budding stock car driver. Runs locally at Toledo Speedway when time permits. Then I'm working around Kenny Sword out of Ohio, who's making a limited run in ASA. This is his 3rd ASA start. Career highlight in the ASA was a 11th place finish at Toledo Speedway 2 years ago.
Jim Brad Loney right behind him has embarked on a new workout schedule. He started lifting weights since the Cedar Rapids race. Says he hasn't done that since high school. So in addition to his running about 4 miles a day, Brad Loney picking up the dumbbells again.
Not going to go there, Dave. Picking up the dumbbells. Dave Sensiba, the race leader, off of turn number 2, and it looks like he is evened out with Mike Eddy. Eddy is not looking for a challenge right now. He's not working outside, working inside, making sense of it. Check the mirrors more than 3 times a straightaway. Again, as I say that, he closes back in within 3 feet of the rear bumper of the Lane Automotive Chevrolet.
That's a great battle.
2 drivers. One with 29 years of experience, one with his 3rd season underway in the American Speed Association. Dave Sensiba, 3rd in points. Mike Eddy in 10th in the big picture of things in the 8th race of the season. It's very important for both these drivers to maintain their 1-2 run, if not the 1-2 finish.
About a straightaway ahead, Jim. Here's Dennis Lampman running with Ted Smokestad in the 32 and Dennis Berry in the 5. Lampman's number 9 is the last car in the lead lap right now. He's running 12th. And Dennis is one of those veteran drivers, has a good time racing out here with a lot of different guys. Says Bob Sineker and Mike Eddy and him usually, whenever they pass on the racetrack, rub each other on purpose. And if they don't do it, it's kind of a disappointing day for them. Lampman out there running strong in 12th. They don't do it to wreck each other, but just do it to say, hey, we're ASA racing and we love it.
Veterans indeed, as Dennis Lampman was Rookie of the Year runner-up in 1983. The American Speed Association took some time off. Came back in the 1992 season. Picked up a win in Berlin in 1993. Did the Gentle Giant, as he's now working around Ted Smokestad. These guys share a lot of parts. Smokestad and Lampman, if they have a problem with each getting apart, that kind of thing, usually those teams interchange a lot of parts. As Lampman goes real wide and Smokestad can't take advantage because he got a little sideways off of turn number 2, so the track might be getting a little greasy off of turn 2.
Battle not for position. Ted Smokestad is not on the lead lap. As we mentioned in the open, coming off his best finish of the year so far, a top 10 at Cedar Rapids in the Super America Pontiac.
There's Dennis Lampman again, 12th, last car on lead lap, and you see he's only a straightaway ahead, not even now, of Dave Sensiba, the West Michigan Chevrolet driver. Working hard off of turn number 4. Carl Muscotton in the pits, unfortunately, in car number 8. We're on the green. We're back at Jennerstown. Welcome back to Jennerstown, where Mike Eddy had an early race lead. It stretched it out quite a margin. Had a caution. Drivers came in and pitted. Scott Hansen stayed on the racetrack, but Dave Sensiba has taken a lead away legitimately from Mike Eddy on the racetrack. Hey, tune in tonight at TNN Motorsports. It's Race Talk with Eli Gold. Tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern. This week's guests for Eli Gold will be Ernie Irvan and Robert Presley. That's tonight. Be sure and tune in to TNN Motorsports, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on TNN. Sensiba's the leader, but here's the battle for 10th we want to show you. Mike Miller inside of Gary St. Amant. St. Amant had 10th. Mike Miller trying to take it away from him. That battle rages in turn number 3. The leaders are on the back stretch, so they're trying to battle for track position, get out single file, and get ahead of the leaders and stay on lead lap as Mike Eddy chasing down Dave Sensiba have made quick work with a number of these cars, dropping all but 12 cars off lead lap.
Gary St. Amant's day started out qualifying 16th, not where he wanted to be. It still looks like he doesn't have much above a top 10 car, but Jim, it doesn't look like that action that put the dent in his front end and in the hood there really made much of a difference. He's kind of staying about where he was before that.
On a hot day, you might like that because there's more air getting in the air box to cool the engine down, but that's not a problem today. No overheating problems for drivers or cars. This battle rages again. 3 laps now side by side. Great racing action here on TNN. Mike Miller inside of Gary St. Amant. Dorstwitz will be the problem momentarily. Mike Miller will have to give up the fight, but it won't be long before he's back underneath in that car cop Pontiac. There's the smoking 56 of Brett Bell. It's a continuing problem, Dave, for Brett Bell's team. The smoke is part of nature, it seems like, for those guys.
Yeah, they really haven't been able to figure out what it is, whether it's something just coming a little oil out of the headers or something out of the rear end there. They did make significant changes on Brett Bell's Wonderbar Ford Thunderbird since the Cedar Rapids race, where the car and Brett overheated. They added a lot of coatings to the headers and as well mica material that they use on the inside of the car around the foot box area to keep him a little bit cooler during the race time. So Brett Bell in the number 56 is a little bit cooler, but he's not on the lead lap right now, fighting in the back of the pack.
In the battle for 10th, point leader point leader Gary St. Amant and Mike Miller still battling out for 10th.
Whoa, Miller a little bit loose off there. Jim, they're driving hard.
Getting around lap traffic as soon as those cars get clear, boy. Lap traffic so important to make your way through here. Here's the leaders a couple laps ago. Dave Sensiba to the inside of a 3-car battle, and look at how tight it gets up at turn number 2. Sensiba actually get off the gas, and Dennis Berry finally sees Mike Eddy momentarily there and almost gets involved there. So very, very tight racing quarters for Dave Sensiba and Mike Eddy. Reason to exhale heading into turn number 3.
Gary St. Amant hangs on to that 10th place position. Mike Miller was not able to take it from him. Miller will settle back in his car cop Pontiac.
10th and 11th, St. Amant and Mike Miller. St. Amant with a very impressive season. Has yet to finish out of the top 10. Point leader by 7 points over Scott Hansen. Wins forward. Gary St. Amant holding off Mike Miller. The rest of the field pretty much single filed out.
Big time trouble, and Bill Baird gets into the back of Dave Sensiba as well. And Dennis Lampman on the top of the track there. Jim, we mentioned earlier he was trying to stay on the lead lap, was one of the last cars there. We'll have to take a look and see if he had something to do with the carnage down in turn number 1.
Race leader Dave Sensiba had nowhere to go heading into turn number 1. Dennis Lampman up involved. Barry Audi in the number 2 car was slow into turn number 1. That may have bunched the field up as the leaders are coming through. We showed you a few laps ago how important it is to get through traffic cleanly.
Oh, here's
Dave Sensiba couldn't quite do it.
He's got front end damage. He's got rear end damage. Pretty much up to speed, though. That's Bill Baird's bumper. That came off of the Saturn Machines. No, I'm sorry. That's Dave Sensiba's bumper. Lane Automotive across the back of that.
Mike Eddy's car is clean and free of any debris, but boy, what a bad break for Dave Sensiba, leading Mike Eddy at this point in the race.
Mike Eddy is charmed, Jim. Remember USA International in Florida? Bob Sineker got involved in the wreck, and Mike Eddy scooted through. He went on to take in the victory, the first race of the season. This afternoon, leader Sensiba gets in trouble. Mike Eddy is able to squeak by.
Lap 157, we'll see a bunch of the cars come in. Scott Hansen coming in for the first time, past halfway. His strategy may be a 1-tire stop. As we follow Dave Sensiba in, it's going to be a little bit of work on the body. Hopefully that's all for that Grand Rapids, Michigan-based team.
Looks like they're taking a pretty cosmetic approach to that, Jim. They don't seem to be going under the hood or anything like that.
Let's go down to Sandy Hang and Dave Sensiba's pit.
Well, you can just look at the damage here. It's a little bit worse than maybe we thought. There's pieces of parts, a lot of body parts coming off right now. They're underneath trying to fix it. It is a tough deal for him. There's a leader is already out. Mike Eddy's made it back out, and as you notice, Hansen did come back in. Before this yellow flag, there was a lot of radio chatter, to pit or not to pit. They were seeing how well Hansen was doing with that just one set of tires, and really it made that a moot issue with this last caution.
Yeah, it's going to hurt Dave Sensiba's chances without that back wing. Here's what we saw, Dave, heading down the front stretch. There's Dennis Lampman ahead of the leaders.
Down into turn number 1. Lampman will take it low, but he gets help from Dave Sensiba. Lampman now locking it up. Sensiba locking it up. Mike Eddy scoots through on the inside. Pow! Kevin Sawinski hitting Dave Sensiba on the left rear quarter panel. Here's another angle at it, and Dennis Lampman's already around. Here comes Sawinski, whap, right on the back end of Sensiba. And as if Dave didn't already have enough damage from hitting him, here comes Bill Baird. Jack Landis spinning down to the inside, apparently without damage, and Dr. Conley in the number 3 Simonton Windows entry stopping short.
Altercation between Dave Sensiba and Dennis Lampman on lap 156 has brought up the caution for the second time this afternoon. Mike Eddy takes the point after pit stops. Mike Eddy, the race leader, after pit stops. All lead lap cars came in. 11 cars remain on lead circuit. 163 laps are in the Jennerstown 250. Dennis Berry and the Tony's Pizza Giant Eagle Ford trying to stay on lead lap, or at least stay only 1 lap down. Now goes 2 down to the race leader, Mike Eddy.
Dennis Berry didn't want that to happen. They had a great week here promoting Giant Eagle nearby Somerset.
4 leaders in the race, 6 lead changes. Scott Hansen, Joe Knott, and Mike Eddy have diced it up. 6 lead changes. Eddy now takes back the point after Sensiba gets involved in that crash. 11 cars remain on lead lap. Only 2 cautions in this race. We're flying around Jennerstown Speedway. Here's the battle for 6th. Tony Raines in the Minuteman Pontiac. Minuteman Lubricants coming on board for this event. 18, Mike Miller running in 8th now as those Pontiacs try to team up and head to the front.
I'm going to go around the outside of Dennis Berry as they head out of turn number 2 now and down the backstretch. That red, white, and blue car of Scott Hansen just in front of him. Looks like Mike Miller's a bit quicker than Tony Raines right now.
These cars are all on lead lap with the exception of the 5 of Dennis Berry. 33, Brad Loney now trying to hold 3rd position, but Joe Knott down under the yellow line here in the 90-degree banking. Tries to use up all of the inside line to gain position on Loney. 3rd, 4th, and 5th is Hansen. Loney stays to the outside. Knott and Hansen looking low. Great battle here.
Side by side, and Brad Loney stays on the outside, keeps the revs up that way, but obviously shorter distance around the inside for Joe Knott, and maybe a little bit greasier.
Fans are cheering as now Joe Knott tries to work inside of Brad Loney. Loney is held 3rd. Here's a good shot for you right as the grandstand, so the fans are seeing some great racing here.
He's going to stay with that high line now. Now Scott Hansen will look to the low side as well. No opportunity for him to get back down at this point.
Hansen now goes underneath Brad Loney all the way down to the yellow line. Sneaks past the lap car and now looks to get 4th away from Brad Loney as Joe Knott is slowly making some tracks, making some room between himself and the battle here between Loney and Hansen.
Remember, Joe Knott was our pole sitter, so he was the fastest qualifier. Race setup seems to be equal to the task as well.
Battle for 4th. H&W 33 is Brad Loney out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Scott Hansen out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin now. The Olympic colored number 53. Put the colors on for the 4th of July and said, hey, the Olympics are coming, let's leave the paint job. A lot of people like it. I'm one of those people. Looks nice.
Very sharp race car. They made the cover of the Action Line, the newspaper put out by ASA, and looks really good on the high banks of I-70 just a few weeks back.
Hansen now finally gets by Loney for 4th. Here comes Tony Raines now to the inside. Raines and those Cleanburn fans in the stands, 50 employees of a nearby Cleanburn distributor, cheering on Raines. He now goes, makes his own way, shall we say, makes his own line to get up and stay ahead of Mike Miller in the 18.
Go around the outside of Greg Freed in the number 80 car. Here's Dave Sensiba now just going a lap down. He was, actually the leaders put him a lap down a while back, but he wasn't a lap down, I don't believe, before that.
He was 11th. He still is 11th. 1 lap off the pace, but he is slowing dramatically now in these last couple of circuits. 175 laps complete this time by. This is the battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th. Make that 5th, 6th, and 7th as Hansen has now moved by the 33 for 4th.
And these 3 Pontiacs have been battling together all afternoon long. Kind of funny how they're all running just about the same pace.
They came in and pitted on lap 157. Check this out. The track now is starting to come apart. In turn 4, Sandy Hang, anything down there on pit lane they're talking about?
Well, they are quite concerned. The track is peeling off. There's several holes. This one here in turn 4 is the worst. As you move down back, there are several other places. It's right in the groove, so the drivers are concerned about it. There is a lot of talk on the radios. No problems with it so far, but they're concerned it may get bigger.
Jim,
Sandy, Dave, I'm looking at the racetrack itself. You can see there's different colors to the racetrack. Some parts are darker than others. Have they put some patches in? What do you think it is?
Well, they've been working on the track a little bit, but I believe that's going to be new growth as far as a problem on the track goes. And the biggest problem of that is that when you start kicking up some of those little stones, so to speak, that come out of that groove, you have some problems with the Goodyear Racing Eagles. These are bias ply tires. It doesn't mean they're weak tires, but it does mean that a little puncture can put these guys into the pits in a hurry.
And they are flat surface. There's no grooves in them, so you need as much adhering to the racetrack as you can. That's why they run slicks and not groove tires. But if there's any sort of stones or anything like that, instantly it turns out to be a very slippery racetrack, as if you're running on a gravel course.
We haven't been in the news much as far as surfaces here, but a number of other series have been experiencing bad track problems. And we'll go to Milwaukee later on this year, one of those tracks.
179 laps make it 180 complete for Mike Eddy. No problems on the track for the GM Goodwrench driver. Looking for the 2nd win of the season. He's leading them with Sawinski in 2nd. Back live to Jennerstown Speedway in the AC-Delco Challenge Series. Mike Eddy, the race leader. 189 circuits about to be completed on this 9-degree banking. Through this half-mile start-finish line. We'd like to remind you that tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, it's the Kings Royal World of Outlaws Wing Sprint Car Race, live right here on TNN Motorsports from Rossburg, Ohio. Earl Baltus's beautiful racetrack, high-banked half-mile, provides for exciting sprint car racing. That's tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on TNN Motorsports.
Jim, here's our battle for 5th. Joe Knott hanging on to that position. Mike Miller trying to get around. We saw these 2 cars together earlier. They've been racing together all day.
Let's go back a few moments ago, Dave, and see how tight it can get here at Jennerstown Speedway.
Coming off of turn number 4 toward the start-finish line, and Joe Knott and Tony Raines get together. Tony a little high, and maybe Joe just saying howdy.
Raines did the bump and run. He stayed on the back bumper of Scott Hansen, and now Joe Knott again sees Mike Miller in pursuit. If you're just joining us, these guys have been, as you mentioned, Dave Burns, waging a battle. Mike Eddy and Dave Sensiba enjoy the lead for the most part, but Sensiba got involved 30 laps ago in an incident with a lap car of Dennis Lampman, and that has put him out of contention. So Mike Eddy has now taken back the point. Kevin Sawinski was also involved in that tangle with Sensiba, but he stayed on the racetrack. He runs 2nd now.
Well, that last speed shot showed Joe Knott getting out of shape again, and Mike Miller seeing an opening, but not able to capitalize on it. Joe may be out of tires again.
Joe Knott's in 5th. Mike Miller is 6th. 7th is Brad Loney. Look at this.
Wow, loose another time, and down to the inside comes Loney in turn 1. Can't quite make it stick.
Joe Knott banged the fence hard enough where I think it might have jostled his goggles a little bit as he was off the pedal into turn number 1, regathered, but he went right to the bottom of the racetrack. I don't think he'll get quite as close this time by as he finally has worked free of Mike Miller. Miller now battling with that blue 33 of a determined Brad Loney.
Tony Roper creeping into the shot there. He's still running strong. Had a good start today and has been working his way up toward the front in the number 10 car.
As dominant as Mike Eddy has become in the last 50 laps here, it is not over 5th on back. Joe Knott is in 5th. In 6th is Mike Miller. In 7th is Loney. Then comes Roper. A lap down is Bob Seneker.
Now,
a good race.
Yeah, if people think that these guys don't really care back that far, that's not necessarily the case. We have battle for the lead now. Sawinski high on the outside for 2nd place.
Sawinski has run out of tires, it looks like, and Scott Hansen goes to the inside. Hansen only has 2 fresh right sides. 50 laps old, but Sawinski has come in well prior to that. So now Tony Raines and Hansen taking advantage of some better tire wear and some newer rubber, working inside of fellow Wisconsin driver Sawinski. Hansen and Raines, their shops are about 6 miles apart. Now get a little bit closer as they touch coming off of turn number 2. And Sawinski has damage on the right front. It was not a clean pass as he got together there with Raines, jostled the bodywork loose on his Brown and Sharp Chevrolet.
Remember, he got together earlier. He just tapped into Dave Sensiba in the Sensiba spin in turn number 1. So that's been flapping in the breeze, and some smoke coming off of him, Jim, I was noticing. So there's a little bit of rubbing going on there.
Man, there's action everywhere. Here comes Mike Miller trying to get 5th spot. He does. He gets past Joe Knott, but Knott wasn't done with him. He bumped him coming off of turn 2. 5th is now Mike Miller. 6th is the Valvoline Ford of Joe Knott. Mike Miller unable to keep it on the bottom as he wants to get maximum corner speed here in the half mile. Here's Scott Hansen right ahead of the bunch. Hansen, Raines, and Sawinski now battling for 2nd. Tight traffic on the front stretch. 200 laps complete, 50 to go in the Jennerstown 250.
Now, Jim, we were talking about the finishing spots in the top 10 being very important. How can we forget earlier this year, Brad Loney and Gary St. Amant coming together at the end of the race, and that was for about 7th position.
Hansen's running in 2nd. Raines is on the move in the 87. Let's check in with that pit. Tony Raines certainly is strong, Sandy.
Well, he's got a great crew chief behind him, someone who's done very well setting up on this track. What is Tony saying about the car right now?
Right now, he's not saying anything. You know, he's just driving. I think the car's pretty good right now. Hopefully, we can get by Scott here. This week, we're in Pennsylvania, home state of clean burn furnaces. We want to do a good job for him. You know, hopefully, we can get a top 3 here, maybe 2nd.
He made a run on Hansen here, didn't quite get around him. Do you think he's going to try again? Does he have it for Hansen?
I don't know. I told him just keep the pressure on. Maybe we can wear him down, you know. Car seems to be pretty good right now, and when tires are getting hot, sticking pretty good, but we'll see what happens.
That's Howie Ledow, crew chief for Tony Raines.
In 9 appearances for Howie Ledow as a crew chief, for Scott Hansen, Glenn Galt, Steve Holzhausen, and Tony Raines, he has 8 of those have been top 10 finishes. So, Jim, he really knows how to turn a wrench here for Jennerstown Speedway.
It certainly does, and Tony Raines trying to turn underneath Scott Hansen. As we look at the tight battle again, Hansen now unable to keep it down low, but there is traction up there. There are definitely 2.5 grooves here of racing at Jennerstown Speedway.
Here comes Tony Raines trying to stay down. Plenty of racing room. These guys are racing close, but he's trying to respect each other, and Hansen will stay with that high line as Raines try. Oh, they come together, it looks like, ever so slightly in turn 2.
Don't think they touched that time, but Hansen has been credited as being a clean race driver. Tony Raines, one of the better, cleaner drivers. Perhaps it cost him a couple of victories as he's been not aggressive enough. That may be the only rap on Raines. He's got that title out the window as you see the wheel marks on the right side of his 87 Pontiac. 2nd and 3rd, Scott Hansen and Tony Raines. It's settled down now, but the water is still simmering at a boil. For 4th now, Kevin Sawinski lost 2nd to those 2 drivers we were just talking about. Now he's got his hands full with the car cop Pontiac and Mike Miller. Miller has the inside line figured out and stays well below the black and gold number 1 of Kevin Sawinski, the rookie leader. Sawinski in 4th, Miller in 5th. That'll switch this time by with Miller at the edge at the scoring stripe.
And Sawinski still has that bodywork flapping and very tight racing right there. ASA will probably not give Kevin the black flag unless those pieces come off. They're really not doing any harm at the moment.
Mike Miller has finished 6th or better in the last 5 straight races. You see Sawinski at a track he hated finished 2nd at IRP.
See Loney sneaking into the picture now in 7th. He's going to start working on the back end of Joe Knott.
Sawinski unable to keep the car down low. Joe Knott is going to have to use sheer determination to get around him, as Sawinski has a quick car, but not quite as quick as Joe Knott, it appears, at this point in the race.
Little bobble there by Sawinski, and that's all that Joe Knott needed. He gets him at the stripe.
5th is Joe Knott. 6th is Sawinski. 7th is Brad Loney. There comes Brad Loney now, so Sawinski's effort has cost him. He did not pit when the leaders came in last time for track position purposes, and now it's costing him as we get well into the latter stages here of the Jennerstown 250. Mike Eddy's the race leader. He's put Gary St. Amant a lap down the first lap. Gary St. Amant has lost off the lead in 1996. We're coming right back. Mike Eddy's the race leader, but now second place belongs to Tony Raines. Raines and Hansen now working through turns 3 and 4. Off of that turn again, they're single file, but Mike Eddy has worked his way past the lap traffic they're coming up upon. Less than a second separates the leader from Tony Raines. Here's the battle for second as it waged on during commercial there just moments ago. Hansen was second. Here comes Raines to get the position back. Again, this is a replay of how Raines got him off of turn number 4 coming down the front stretch. Textbook passes. Hansen had to give him the inside line entering turn 1. Look how fast Tony Raines has gotten Dave Burns. He's really turned up the wick.
Yeah, he looks pretty great. 131 starts as we see there. He's got 3 wins. Probably the most memorable up at Cayuga, where he did the dance on top of his roof after winning there. His best finish so far in 1996, a third at Berlin Raceway back in June.
And the car he won with that day in Calgary was owned by Ernie Rosselli, who's here at the racetrack as a spectator. First time back since selling off his racing equipment a season or 2 ago. So it's good to see Ernie back at the racetrack from nearby Bigler, Pennsylvania. I wonder how long he's going to sit in the stand before he starts buying some more race equipment. Ernie's a great guy.
It's a fever you get. Scott Hansen now in third is being pressured big time by Mike Miller. Miller's been sneaking his way through and gripping pretty low to the line there on the low side. Scott Hansen again running on the higher side. We saw Tony Raines get him on the inside, and now Mike Miller's going to make the same try.
Mike Miller, Dave, you mentioned earlier if the driver has an inside line, it might cost him some tire wear, but I think Mike Miller down the back straightaway shows how quick he is off of turn number 2. Gets the bite. Car's not really drifting sideways at all as he tries to work inside of Hansen. Notice how far into the turn Hansen has to go before he can turn to stay outside of Miller and give him a lane to run.
It'd be an interesting last lap battle, wouldn't it? They're pretty close right now.
The last 70 laps have been like this, where the positions 1st through 9th have taken place. Changes, position moves. Way ahead is Tony Raines now ahead of Scott Hansen. We showed you the pass he made. He's now 15 car lengths ahead of this battle.
Just put Randy Ruhlman another lap behind them, the 49 car.
Mike Miller to the bottom of Scott Hansen for 3rd. Can he snatch the position? Indeed he does. Hansen, however, has been using the outside line. Miller a little bit higher this time off of 4. He'll take 3rd. 4th is Hansen. 5th is Joe Knott, the pole sitter. In 48, Knott now to the inside of Hansen. That's not going to be easy, though, as Hansen has used the outside line. We'll see what Knott has now. 25 laps to go this time by for Mike Eddy, the race leader. This is the battle for 4th.
Boy, Knott drives it deep in there. He will get by Scott Hansen and take over that 4th place spot.
Here's your leader, Mike Eddy, showing the way as the laps wind down. Back for the finish in Jennerstown in moments. The Jennerstown 250 in the closing stages, with Mike Eddy showing the way quite handily in the GM Goodrich Service Pontiac. Leading Tony Raines by a straightaway plus. I'll show you some of the other cars running in the field today. Alec Pinsino in the backup car. Behind the leaders. Sees Kevin Sawinski there. There's Alec Pinsino in the white 93, the backup car. The other one wasn't quite ready, and Alec doesn't like the white one. He has a white car and a black car. He has no luck, according to his crew.
Jack Landis on the high side. He's in 26th place being shown right now. He's the 2nd in the rookie battle behind the 1 car who will creep into the picture here of Kevin Sawinski. Jack in the Maisto Ford Noah Yoder Ford Thunderbird.
3rd and 4th place battle right here. Joe Knott trying to get back at Mike Miller, putting Miller to the outside this time. The 18 is Mike Miller, 48 is Joe Knott. 23 years separate, I would think, their experience and close to their ages. Mike Miller, the veteran out of Marietta, Georgia. And Joe Knott, the youngest full-time driver of the ASA circuit. Mixing it up here in the closing laps at Jennerstown.
Yeah, both of those are great stories. Mike Miller coming back after a 10-year hiatus, getting his first victory in 15 years there at I-70 recently this year. And Joe Knott, oh so close in just his, I believe, fourth season now, or maybe fifth, Jim, at this point for Joe Knott.
Oh, Knott tries to pinch it down tight. Boy, what a nice job of driving by Joe Knott that time. Using every bit of his experience here at Jennerstown to get by Mike Miller. Might have scuffed a little bit of sidewall on that one as he really got down to turn 1 to get the pass on Mike Miller.
He'll put Joe squarely into 3rd place now, and he'll try to go after 2nd place Tony Raines.
53 is Scott Hansen, 33 Brad Loney. The battle for 5th now. Hansen trying to hang in the top 5 position. Again, they look at top 5 finishes, top 10 finishes when trying to attract a major sponsor, which Hansen is in pursuit of. Trying to hang on to 5th spot over Brad Loney, the Bun Saber Pontiac. Hansen's used the outside group, but he has lost 3 positions in the last 20 laps by staying high, where obviously his car is more comfortable.
Yeah, that must be the reason, Jim. Obviously, if he could run fast down low, he would do it. But he stays in that high line because right now, those are the quickest lap times that Scott can turn.
And Scott Hansen, with 11 laps remaining, is one of the few drivers to make only 1 pit stop on this race. Mandatory in ASA to make at least 1 pit stop for right side tires and any side tires, really 2-tire stop. Hansen has made that stop, and his strategy may have paid off if everyone else wasn't so darn strong on lead lap. Mike Eddy came in twice, and his Pontiac certainly is strong and up to the task today.
Oh, less than 10 laps to go now. Brad Loney moves into 5th. Right ahead of Scott Hansen in 6th now. So Loney creeping back up. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to catch another position as the next place, the 4th place car of Mike Miller, is just a bit ahead of him.
Mike Eddy, as if sitting back enjoying an ice cold iced tea on a hot Sunday afternoon, enjoying the cool breezy weather at Jennerstown. Under 10 laps remaining now for Mike Eddy.
Chewing that gum, Jim, do you think?
He uses the same piece of gum the entire race. I think it's only a Wrigley's. I don't want to get the sponsor wrong. I don't think he has a sponsor. He just goes out and buys a stick. 1 pack lasts him 5 races. 1 stick per race.
That thing's like a big rubber band by the time Mike gets done here. He's driven very smoothly today, Jim. Never really offline. Just the 1 close incident over in turn number 2 when he was either Dave Sensible or Bob Dorstowitz spun around. So, and he's had a pretty clean run today.
This will erase a lot of question marks for Mike Eddy and his crew. Are they capable? What kind of year they have? And they didn't have a great year up to this point. A terrible year for Mike Eddy if he didn't win 5 races by now. He won the first 3 a year ago. Started the season with a bang. Then it's been all downhill since. A 4th and a 9th place finish have been the highlights for Mike Eddy since the opener.
Well, this particular car, Howard Thomas was telling me yesterday, has crashed out 3 different times or did not finish on 3 different occasions. And if it did the same thing today, they said Mike was going to park it.
5 to go for Mike Eddy, going around Dave Sensible. Qualified outside pole and ran so well. Was one of the few cars up to the task to challenge this Pontiac driver. Midland, Michigan, the hometown for Mike Eddy, full-time racer in the ASA AC-Delco Challenge Series. He's in first. Now check back. We're going to get all the way back to Tony Raines here. That's how dominating Mike Eddy has been. It's a battle for 3rd here. You have a half a lap plus. A lot more to worry about here. In the closing laps does Joe Knott. There's the 18 of Mike Miller in 4th. The car caught Pontiac.
Well, that battle's not over, and they nearly get together out of turn number 2. Mike Miller fighting to get around Joe Knott. Real close that time.
Mike Miller now saving it up. It looks like he backed off a bit to make a run down the front stretch here with 2 circuits to go.
No challenge for the lead. Tony Raines is about a straightaway back from Mike Eddy. So Eddy clearly has things wrapped up right now, but this is the battle for 3rd.
Mike Eddy getting the signal. 2 laps remaining as he's into turn number 1 and 2. Mike Eddy now coming down the front stretch. This time by, we'll see the white flag. Mike Eddy, the race leader, will get the white flag. There's 2nd place car of Tony Raines. Cleanburn Pontiac. Great run for Tony on the final circuit. Mike Eddy off of turn number 4 will pick up career win number 54. Back in black is Mike Eddy, the winner of the Jennerstown 250. There's a little monkey growing on his back. Not anymore. That thing's been brushed away with his 2nd win in the '96 season.
Very handily done for the veteran Mike Eddy. And he needed this, Jim. We've talked about that. He needed this to come out of a slump that they've been having. Most recently, a did not finish at Cedar Rapids after he collided with Joe Knott coming out of the pits.
No better way to turn it around than Mike Eddy scoring a dominating victory. The crew extremely happy there. There's the good luck charm right there. That little puppy dog. Back to talk to the victors after this. Mike Eddy in a very busy victory lane has the widest smile of the bunch. The winner, the Jennerstown 250 on the front stretch, and Sandy Hang has joined him.
Well, Mike is finally shook those gremlins off there, didn't you?
Yeah, I guess, you know, this GM Goodwrench, Howe Racing Enterprises Pontiac's just been, you know, it's been running like this all year, and we've just been having terrible luck. And I guess maybe today we might have changed our luck finally.
After the four did not finishes on the category, what did you do specially to prove for this, to be in the victory lane here?
Well, we haven't done nothing any different any race. The car's been fast every race. We just been the lucky recipient of being crashed, and today we missed it.
Okay, well, right behind me, one of your crew members, tell me about this little puppy dog that's here. They've been carrying this dog around saying it might be good luck. Tell me about it.
Well, it's the first time it's made it here this weekend, and we won the race, so if that's what it's going to take, it'll be here every race.
Looks like a hunting dog to me.
Yes, probably comes fall, we'll take that duck hunting with us.
Be even better duck hunting if you can take the championship.
Yeah, well, that's a long ways off, you know. We just take this one race at a time, and we'll take what we get. As long as we can win our share of races, we'll be happy.
You've got a lot of points between you and the first place points leader. You've got a lot of ground that you need to cover. Anything special you're planning on? This 8-week stretch, 8 races in 8 weeks, it's going to be grueling. How do you prepare for something like that?
Well, you just, you know, get ready like any other races and try and finish them all, you know. You know, everybody has bad luck once in a while, and hopefully I got all mine out of the way at the beginning of the year, and we can win some races now.
That's Mike Eddy. You can't count him out.
He's got the hunting dog as a mascot named Oreo. He's going to be hunting them down in La Crosse. The first time in 15 years, the American Speed Association returns to what they call the Mini Milwaukee Mile, the big flat 5-ace mile at La Crosse, Wisconsin. The La Crosse 300 live here on TNN next Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern on TNN Motorsports. We follow that up August 4th. First time to Lancaster Speedway for the New York State Pontiac Excitement 300. Buffalo, New York, catch it right here, 1 o'clock on TNN. Then to the famed Milwaukee Mile, the 28th visit unconfirmed for the ASA series to the Milwaukee Mile, the Badgerland 150 circuits on the famed mile. The track will be ready to go according to track officials for a 3 o'clock start Eastern on the 25th of August. Then it's back to Cedar Rapids, the other Rapids where the rabid fans of ASA call home to Brad Loney. And we'll catch up with them September 21st live here on TNN, 2 p.m. Eastern time. Start on that one. Then it's back to the High Banks. Sonny Adams Toledo Speedway, Toledo 400. That's an afternoon show, a 1 o'clock start. Followed up with a return of the American Speed Association to the High Banks. We're talking High Banks, followed up by High Banks, Dave Burns, Toledo Speedway, and Salem Speedway. It should be very exciting.
We talk about races back-to-back that might cause them to be a little bit worried about equipment failure or destruction, shall we say. Toledo and Salem, certainly two of those. Salem is one of those tracks that really made ASA in the early years, as you mentioned, the high-banked half-mile.
We'll wrap up the season November 17th at the Southern National Speedway in Kenly, North Carolina. A 1 o'clock start that will remind you of that as you join us each week here on TNN. Let's head back trackside. Mike Eddy's the winner. Second place to Tony Raines. He's standing by with Sandy.
Well, you're looking at the grill of Tony's car, and looks like a lot of track parts, parts on your car and on your uniform here. What was the track like out there?
Well, it got not really slick, but there was these are pretty soft tires that, you know, Goodyear run, and we were putting a lot of rubber down on the track, and it kind of give you a lot of traction, but when it slid, it really slide a lot, you know, and we had trouble with the car. It kept loosening up on us, but you know, we worked on it. We got a little better, and hopefully come back here in October, we'll be a little stronger. We can catch up with that 88 car.
What about that fishing hole that was developing in turn 4? Did you see that hole, and then what did you do to try to avoid it? It looked like it was right in the groove there.
Well, I just kept trying to straddle it. I tried to, you know, put it right in the middle of the hood when I'd come off the corner, and it was working really good for me. You know, a couple of times you get into it, and it'd move you around a little bit, but as long as you concentrated and hit the right line. It was no problem.
You were back and forth with Hansen quite a bit there. What was the decisive move? What was it that you were finally able to get around him?
Well, I tell you, Scott's got an awesome motor in that car, and we were a little better handling. I was really good off the corner, and we just diced, and I'd get underneath him, and he'd pull me. So finally, he was slowing down just a little bit, and I got a good run at him and got by him. But it was pretty tough there for a while.
Pretty tough, and I'm sure there are a few marks on your race car to prove it that you were elbow to elbow there for a while. Preparing for this race, we talked about what a genius Howie Ledow, your crew chief, is at this track, and he really has changed your performance here at Jennerstown. The races you had before he was your crew chief and now. Tell me what a difference he makes having him behind you as a driver.
Well, you know, I got a great crew chief and a great crew. You know, Howie works, you know, with the cars, you know, just as good as anybody, and we work together trying to get the car better, you know, and we never give up on that. You know, obviously, we just won short today, but, you know, we'll keep working on it and we'll get better. But he's got a lot of experience. He's worked with a lot of great drivers, and it's only a plus for me.
One more question for you about the tires. It was a poker game out here. No one wanted to show what their hand was, what they were going to do as far as pit strategy and when to change tires. When did you make the final decision to go ahead and take that first pit stop when Scott Hansen did not?
Well, you know, like I said, our car was continually getting looser, so we, you know, we needed a yellow the first time, so we knew we were going to come in first chance we had, and then the same thing again on the second yellow. But that last set of the left sides that we got on there really helped the car a lot, and you know, if it had been another 50 laps, we probably would have needed another set of tires. But, you know, we held on, and, you know, it was a good day for us.
Held on to make it to second place. That's Tony Raines. Thank you, Tony.
Great finish for Tony Raines. It's his third top 5 of the season. Second podium finish. He's inching closer. He's got a 4th and a 3rd in his back pocket, coming off 2 6th-place finishes. That's why Mike Eddy's smiling. His victory and the trophy. The AC-Delco Challenge Series completes event number 8. Mike Eddy back on top where he was after the first round. 10th in points head again. That will change as the top 10 are very tightly locked in a point battle. I'd like to remind you tonight, Race Talk with Eli Gold. Tune in tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern. This week's Eli's guests will be Ernie Irvin and Robert Presley. That's tonight. Be sure and tune in to TNN Motorsports, 6 p.m. Eastern. On TNN Motorsports, where we had live coverage of the AC-Delco Challenge Series this afternoon, 250 circuits. And a driver who started up front found his way back to the front, finished 3rd. Here comes Sandy Hang with the interview with Joe Knott.
Well, you're looking at a few, what do you call, rubbins, racings marks, Joe. You want to tell me about those here on the car?
Well, towards the end there, we were racing with Mike Miller and having a good battle back and forth. He was running the high side and I was running the low side, and we were just trying to figure out who was faster. I think we had to do a little bit of rubbing and racing to figure out who was faster. So Alan Knott, Honda, Raby Ford, Valvoline car, you know, it wasn't the greatest. We missed the setup just a little bit on our Penske shocks. Tires, Goodyear was good all day. I think when we come back next year, or this actually fall, we'll have something good figured out. I think we didn't realize the track was going to slicken up as bad as it did. And I think we'll tighten the car up just a little bit. We were pretty loose, and we're happy. I mean, we couldn't ask for any better with the car we had.
Talking about this fall, it's going to be critical at the end of the season when we come back to Jennerstown. You mentioned the tires briefly, but what about pit stop strategy? And how may that change? How will you change how you approach that later this fall?
Well, I think we'll go back and sit down and think about it for a little while. I think we were pretty close on our strategy. Could have maybe been just a little bit better, but we'll have to go back, watch the tape, and see what we did wrong or did right. So we're really happy. We had 2 guys on our team this year, Dave Smith and Steve Mitchell. They had birthdays this weekend, and I forgot to get them something for their birthday, so I figure a pole in 3rd place will suit them fine.
That'll be just fine. One other question I want to ask you, we talked to Tony Raines a little bit about this hole that developed in turn 4. The track seemed to be peeling up. How did that affect your run for 3rd place?
Well, it did affect it. You know, you run over that gravel where the track's coming apart, and you just slide through it. There's no other. If you can get straight through it, that's the best way to go through it. But if you're sideways or just coming off the corner, you're going for a slide. So the biggest thing was remembering where all those spots were and trying to get the car straight through them.
It was like tiptoeing through the tulips, huh?
Yeah, it really was. But we're happy.
That's 3rd place finisher Joe Knott.
third place finisher, Joe Knott. Indeed, he should be happy. He had 4 top 5 finishes to start the season, held the point lead momentarily over Gary St. Amant. Then the bottom fell out if you were looking for top 5s every week. He had a 15th at Berlin, had an accident at I-70, a hard impact where they had to restub both ends of the car. And he finished 13th at Hawkeye Downs. As you see, Mike Eddy, the winner, again with that lucky dog in victory lane with his couple of kids of the race crew. And unfortunately for Joe Knott, didn't win, but man, is he happy with a third? He's back on track as Mike Eddy enjoys the spoils of victory. Tony Raines finished up in second position. We already talked to him. Joe Knott's thoughts are positive. Mike Miller, another top 5 finish for the Georgia veteran, and he cannot be disappointed at all with the run he had. A great race all race long with fellow Pontiac driver Brad Loney. Scott Hansen was top 5, led for a while, fell back to 6th. Great run for Harold Fair, Dave Burns. He
finishes up in the 7th position after starting 12th today, picks up 5 spots there, and Harold needed a good run today. He's an ASA veteran and came home real well in 7th. Tony Roper right behind him, same story. Tony Roper has had so much bad luck in the American Speed Association over the last couple of years. Good for him to come home in the top 10. And Kevin Sawinski in 9th. You know, that little tap he had in turn number 2 put him back to about 9th here, but looks like he's probably going to stick with that Rookie of the Year lead at this point. Point leader Gary St. Amant came into this race. He finished every lap. 1,800 laps have been run in ASA competition into this event. He'll add another 249 to that total. It's first lap he's not finished all season long. However, he is perfect in attendance. He did finish only a lap off the pace in 10th position. 11th, Ted Smokestad, who is very positive after his top 10 run at Hawkeye Downs. He had a 12th at Lakeland, but other than that, it's been a mediocre season for Smokestad and the Super America team, but he's bounced back. Hometown driver Rick Miller, Lightning Rick Miller we call him now, from that lightning strike. He was nervous, a little bit apprehensive coming into this race because he said all the people that are from his hometown are calling him and saying, Rick, you're racing at Jennerstown this weekend. We really want to wish you luck, and it took him away from preparation of the car and the focus of driving on the track. And he is working week to week right now as far as financing that team for the remainder of the 96 season, Jim, and a position like this, 12th, pays a lot better than 34th, and this is going to help Rick stay with us. Bob Seneker had problems with the front brakes. He dropped off the pace and just maintained a 1 lap down position in 13th. Unfortunately for the sneaker, he will maintain or drop a position or 2 from 5th place, even points he enjoyed coming into the event here today at Jennerstown. Brett Bell finishes, period. Great run for Brett in the Wonder Bar Ford just to get a run in. Absolutely. They have been so struck by bad luck in the past, and just to finish a race, even only a 250 lapper, for them it's R&D time. Their biggest problem is they've not had a chance to run that long in any race this year, so Brett able to stretch one out to the end today. As we look at the rest of the field rundown, Billy Turner, his career best, 21st. Jack Landis finishes back in 24th. Dennis Latman, after the altercation with with Dave Senselba, finishes 27th. Muscatine qualifies 9th, finishes 30th on the afternoon for the Chevrolet driver out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Aaron Huff, Robbie Pyle on a team car to Gary St. Amant, and Brandon Sperling round out the field. We'll talk about these guys in a little while, as we're hoping to get more thoughts from the drivers on the American Speed Association Tour when we come back to Jennerstown. Back to Jennerstown Speedway, the slight sign of the moon, and that's a great sign here because there was a lot of rain yesterday, a lot of rain the day before here in Pennsylvania. If you've been watching the weather, you know how bad it was in the Midwest and Illinois and Ohio, and our thoughts are with you if you indeed have suffered through that terrible drought, drenching rain we've had the last couple days. And one thing that has turned around for Harold Fair is a great consistent run, and we've awarded Harold Fair the wins winning move for a consistent finish. Harold Fair finishing 7th, his highest of the season, and a great run. Best thing about this deal is Harold Fair has a complete race car. The Pontiac is intact for next weekend in La Crosse, and Harold with Lisa Dickinson, Miss Wins. And here's Sandy with a comment.
Well, Harold is here right now with his wife Hilda. Got to be a great run for you. You've got to feel good about that.
Oh yes, it really was a good run. The CarQuest car was really running great today. Early on, we didn't pit for 150 laps. The car felt really comfortable all day long, and we changed some tires at the rear and did exactly what we wanted to do. We had a grease seal went out on the rear end, and the left front was going flat. Car got kind of loose, but the car had hung in there all day. I really thought we were going to be in the top 5, but really we've been working hard, everybody, my son, and you know, just want to say hi to everybody back in Detroit and all our friends, and it's good to put a good run together for a change.
It was a great run, and your pit crew did a great job for you there on that pit stop. Weren't you proud of them?
Oh yeah, we kind of threw some together today. One guy was going to jack. He said, no, I don't want to jack. And then we brought over our owner's son, and he jacked. And then we got a new 2 new tire changers today, and We had Susie Racer carrying a tire for us today, and we got our 80-year-old catch can man, and just kind of threw everybody together, and they did a great job.
And that could have been a wild card for you, but they pulled together and pulled it off. You know, we've talked a lot about what we've learned today at Jennerstown with the new tires and how it will change the way we set up and strategize later in the fall. What have you learned about the racetrack with the new tires?
Well, really today, our car, I think, was set up so well, I honestly believe we could have run the whole race. The tires we took off actually still had the mold marks in the middle. You know, they might not have been quite as fast, but after 10, 20 laps, the other guys seemed to get as slow as we. So you know, one pit stop's all we made. Who knows? In the fall, it'll be chillier. You know, I don't know. I think there'll be, you know, just a couple stops then too.
Hey, that's Harold Fair with the Wins winning move.
Wins winning move. Harold Fair, his second top 10 finish, earns him the $500 check from our friends at Wins. When it's Wins, it works.
Oh, we saw another winning move there.
And his wife Hilda very happy as well. They'll pack it up. Head off to La Crosse. We'll be right back here at Jennerstown Speedway. More thoughts on the Jennerstown 250. Back with your Jennerstown Speedway as we see the crews now continuing to work. You think their work is done when the race is over, but they have work ahead of them as it's a short week up to La Crosse Fairgrounds Speedway in La Crosse, Wisconsin, on the way from Milwaukee to Minneapolis. It's about a 3-hour trip north or west on I-94. These guys have their work cut out for them in a short week, and we start an 8-week stretch of back-to-back races here in the American Speed Association. Let's check in with fifth place finisher Brad Loney.
Well, I'm sitting here with Brad Loney. He's kicking back, relaxing, happy with his finish after, you know, some disappointments there in Iowa. Got to feel good here to be fifth place.
It's a nice bounce back into the top 5, you know. This Bunsaver Flex Steel Furniture H&W Motor Express team did a great job today. Actually, I kind of owe everything to them. They did a fantastic job on pit stops, and we were able to come in and pick up a few positions getting out that I might like. I don't think we would have made up out on the track. And with the track coming apart the way it was today, you know, we just kind of hung in there all day long. You know, a little bit of attrition was to come into play, but all in all, the guys did a great job for me, and I kind of owe it all to them.
Well, your crew chief, Kurt Beckler, said before the race, he said, you know, I've checked everything. I've checked it twice. I've checked it 3 times. That kind of the mood?
Certainly has been that way, especially considering what's been happening to us with a couple of fluke incidents in the last couple of events. But I think we're back to run strong again, and hopefully all the gremlins are gone, and nothing more silly or stupid's going to break on us.
What about that battle with Hansen trying to get around him?
I don't remember it being a battle. It wasn't bad. No.
Oh, you're saying it was easy, huh?
No, it wasn't easy, but Scott races us clean most of the time, and we try to do the same, and it just took a little longer than I probably would have liked to have.
You were just sitting waiting for your opportunity then?
Yeah, certainly, and like I had mentioned earlier about the track coming apart, it made it difficult if you had the right side tires in that part of the track that was coming apart. It made it difficult to pass on the inside, and Scott, it appeared, had a pushy car and was running up the track a little bit, and you know, it left the door open for us.
You know, in qualifying and practice, a lot of drivers were happy with that sealant that they have on the track. They like the grip, the extra grip, but it was really Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde when we got in the race. Did you see that happening, and specifically what part of the track was giving you the most difficulty?
The middle on out of the turns, I think, was probably the most difficult for us. I don't know, practice and qualifying the sealant, I don't know how much of a difference it actually made as to what happened this afternoon, but I think maybe a little bit of my dirt track experience and some of those things that are kind of a natural for me now helped out later on in the race.
Okay, that's Brad Loney. Happy to take home a fifth place finish.
Jim, one of the unofficial records we think Loney might have now is his 33rd in a row ASA race where he has not had a DNF. So great moves for Brad Loney in ASA.
Take a look at the point standings after 8 races, and Hansen now has the lead. Gary St. Amant came in a little tentative with the lead. He felt pressured. I think he might feel a little bit more relaxed heading into La Crosse Fairgrounds Speedway. Hansen has the lead, 1,314. This is unofficial. And Gary St. Amant will be in second, trying to hold off Joe Knott. Again, look at how tight that battle is. It looks like less than 100 points there, separating first, second, third, and just about 100 back to Dave Sensiman and Tony Raines, tied for 4th. So a great, great battle shaping up here. Raines jumps up from 6th to tie for 4th. Mike Miller, Bob Seneker drops a spot. As we mentioned, he finished 13th. Mike Miller, a 4th place finish this afternoon. So those guys, every race will be going back and forth. These points are yet to be decided, and we aren't even halfway through the season. Sawinski is 8th, just a little bit ahead of Brad Loney. And Mike Eddy in 10th, but closing on Loney. Here we look at the top 15 now, Dave, and it looks like Tony Roper is firmly in 11th.
Yeah, Tony Roper started the day in 11th. He finishes up there, but he's quite a ways ahead of Rick Miller now, who is in 12th. Ted Smokestad running 13th. Tom Jones, he started 21st today on the grid, which is when he started and won in 1993 at the 400 lapper here. Didn't pan out for him today, but he remains in the 14th position. And Jack Landis stays in 15th. He'll continue to chase Kevin Sawinski for that rookie battle down to the end of the year.
There's Scott Hansen, new point leader. First time he's held the points, I believe, since his accident in 1992. Sidelined him for the season after a crash in Berlin. And he's not over yet. He's signing the autographs. He's talking to the crew guys. There's Craig Paulson right there working with him, and those guys are working on the car yet. See their spare pit bull there has a bunch of rear end parts, and Hansen's looking things over, and that may be why he's leading the points, Dave. A lot of hard work, and these guys are always thinking about what they're doing at the racetrack or what they can do for the next race.
Well, the American Speed Association, of course, also a place where the drivers still work on the cars, have a lot of input as far as that goes.
Hansen talking things over, and we're going to take a break, come back with more here from Jennerstown Speedway. Mike Eddy back on the victory stand in AC-Delco Challenge Series racing. The 1996 AC-Delco Challenge Series on TNN is brought to you in part by Win Oil Company, makers of quality automotive car care products. Remember, when it's wins, it works. By your GM Goodwrench service dealer, we want your business. And by the more than 1,350 AutoZone stores across America. AutoZone, the best parts in auto parts. Back live at Jennerstown Speedway, Jennerstown, Pennsylvania, the Laurel Highlands. Man, is it going to be beautiful here when the ASA cars return in October. October 13th is when they come back to Jennerstown for a 400 lapper. And that's when all the colors of the earth will be changing for the fall season. And we see Greg Freed loading up. And let's check back in with Sandy Hang on pit lane with our 4th place finisher. Is he tired out there, Sandy?
He sure is. Hey, we are on a commercial, Mike. He's been waiting here. But I want to show you, before we talk to Mike, I want to show you something. This is the story of the race right here. You talk about skill. Look at what some of the drivers have been through, including Mike. A lot of bruises, but no major wrecks today. No major wrecks.
Thank God.
Thank God. Some tight situations for you, but you held on for a good finish.
I'll tell you, the Car Cop USA Team Handball Wagner-powered Pontiac really ran good today. And if we're gonna talk for a minute, that's fine. But I really, especially want to wish our United States Team Handball really good luck this week coming now. You guys and girls, let's go get the gold.
Team Handball is a sponsor here for the Mike Miller team, and you're all together with it. One other thing I wanted to talk to, several things I want to talk to you about, but first of all, that stop and go. Too fast in pit lane. You know, you made 4 positions, then you lost it all just right away. How did you regroup and get your head together after that?
Well, I just plain screwed up, and I went down pit road too fast, and it was just a rookie mistake.
Rookie mistake. There was some question if it was too fast or was just right on the envelope, but you didn't let it hold you back. Also, we saw you right before the race. Looked like you're working on valve springs or something. What was going on, and how did you get the car back in the race?
Well, in our final preparation, we checked the compressed spring rate of the valve springs, and one of the springs was weak. So we took it apart, and sure enough, we had a broken valve spring. And then Carl, in his final preparation underneath the car, discovered a leak or a crack on what's called the panhard bar mount on the rear end.
The bracket?
The bracket. And had that broke, we would have wrecked the car. So Carl saved the car and I saved the motor.
So truly a team effort today. Also some fast pit stops when you did come in. Your crew really rallied around you. Do you think that helped make the difference?
You bet. I got the best crew in ASA. There's just no question about it. You know, Scott and Carl and Coleman and my tire specialist, Jim Duffy, who is the tire specialist in ASA. And I mean, we're a great big happy family.
Also known as Big Duffy affectionately by many of the members of the ASA family. One other thing, when we're talking about strategy and preparing for this race, you've been very consistent. You're starting to develop a theme, a trend here in the season. Consistent. Is that something that you're striving for?
Well, we're out to win. We come to the racetrack to win the race. I mean, we had no intentions of anything other than victory today, and of course we were satisfied with well, not real satisfied, but we're satisfied. We're real happy with fourth place. But Carl is doing just a phenomenal job of maintaining the car at home, and the motors have been, you know, very powerful and very durable. And you know, if you stay out of trouble on the racetrack, and you know, and if you don't have flat tires, and you know, right now we're kind of in a lucky spell where things are kind of going our way, and we're not getting the flats and all the other things that can happen to you, you know.
Okay, that's Mike Miller with the team that's really beginning to gel here, guys.
Hi, Mom, Dad.
One of the characters of ASA as well. And looking at the car itself, it survived the war, but he mentioned Carl Hyland a bunch of times, and we had a chance to talk to some of the crew chiefs, including Carl Hyland, about what this 8-week stretch run is going to take to live through it.
You know, the main thing is just keep your car out of trouble and be there at the end of the race. And, you know, you'll see a lot of teams, I think, through this 8-race stretch that's gonna be in some trouble. I mean, you know, much less if they're a one-car team. You know, seriously crash a car, you know, the next week it's gonna be tough on a lot of them being back. So our main thing is on that car sitting at the house, it's ready to go. It's got a little note that says on front of it, not to be used.
You keep the car together, and you got a backup sitting there just in case. You keep your maintenance program up so you don't break, that type of thing, hopefully. And it's just primarily work. You just got to work at it.
Our situation, 3 weeks ago, we had a race car pretty much destroyed, and we finally got it back together, so we got 2 cars again. So it's a relief from that aspect going into an 8-week stretch that you have 2 cars. The other thing, you want to make sure you stay up on your maintenance. The time in between races is limited. You just got to buckle down, work harder, and hopefully get through it fine.
We kind of have a tight budget right now, and with coming up on 8 weeks in a row, we have to really use our budget wisely, hope that we don't have any motor problems, don't get tore up, and go from race to race with 1 car, not having the spare ready to go yet. Any bad luck, and we'll be sitting out for at least a week.
That's unfortunate for that Pennsylvania-based team, but you get an idea for some of the crew chiefs as Sandy Hang went around this morning and asked them what it's going to take. And the work continues down here on pit lane, but Dave Burns, you spent some time on pit lane covering the action for T9 Motorsports. What are your thoughts on what these guys have done and what they need to do, or what you've seen them do to prepare for this stretch?
Well, they're all determined, Jim. I mean, whether they have a large rig with 2 cars in the top and 1 racing on a weekend, or whether they've got a smaller rig that they're towing from race to race, they are all determined and focused on getting through this. I think another thing that we're going to see is guys in the area, if they wreck their cars and they're going to have to go to the next race through somebody's town where there's a garage and things like that, you're going to see a lot of help from other teams. So I think people are really going to pull together, and you know, like a big family, the American Speed Association drivers and teams are going to make it through this 8 weeks. They're going to be a little bit rougher for the ride, but they're going to come out shining when we have a 1-week break later in the year and then go another 4 races in a row.
September 15th, the weekend off, barring any other changes, but we can see that the crews are finally winding down with what they wanted to prepare for to get the cars loaded, head back home, and we're heading out to a short commercial break. We'll be right back. Jennerstown Speedway. Welcome back to Jennerstown Speedway. We just finished up 250 circuits on this flat half mile. Mike Eddy, the winner. Tony Raines finishing up in 2nd position as he's ever closing to his next victory, as the cars are now in the tech line. You can see him down there in the technical inspection. The crew's getting to show the ASA officials everything's legal in their limited compression 9.5 to 1 V6s. As they continue to do that, we want you to get out a pen and paper and write down this address, because Racing Electronics, the official communications equipment supplier of the American Speed Association, is offering you the opportunity to win a Uniden Bearcat scanner on each ASA telecast on TNN. Along with the scanner, you get a 1-year Racers frequency membership, which will give you up-to-date frequencies on the drivers, the officials, and the different series. To enter the drawing, send your name and address on a postcard to Racing Electronics, P.O. Box 561-244, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28256. This week's winner is Charles Monkey from beautiful Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin. Congratulations, Charles. Enjoy your scanner from Racing Electronics. Charles Monkey of Sturgeon Bay, the winner of this week's scanner for the Racing Electronics. As we see the As we see now, Hal Matthews of AC-Delco working with the trophy there. Kids wanting to help carry it. Mike Eddy, the victor, sponsored in part by GM Goodwrench and AC-Delco. Let's go down to Sandy Hang, who's been working awfully hard on pit lane.
With Dave Sensible, you're looking at his car loaded up, the bent frame. Tell me, Dave, what happened in that turn one? You were leading the race. You were strong. What happened?
Yeah, the West Michigan Chevy dealers Lane Automotive car was really running great today, and we come up on a lap car, and I worked him on the high side and on the bottom side, and he got loose as a lap before, and I was just going to drive in underneath him and drove into him. Just, you know, driver had brain fade.
That's tough luck for Dave Sensible. He's been third in points, then with the 19th place finish. Not a good one for him.
He'll be back at La Crosse Fairgrounds Speedway. With a final look, we'll be right back as they're taking the motor out of Hanson's car. Jennerstown Speedway, the site of event number 8, has come to a finish. Mike Eddy has been declared the winner. Immediately following our broadcast, stay tuned for the best of Shade Tree Mechanic, followed by Inside NASCAR. Stay with us. That's next. Mike Eddy finishes up the winner. Stay tuned to TNN for all the race coverage this afternoon. Tune in to TNN next Sunday, July 28th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central Time, when the AC-Delco Challenge Series presents the La Crosse 300 from the La Crosse Fairgrounds Speedway in La Crosse, Wisconsin. We'll bring it to you live on TNN. That's July 28th at 2 p.m. next Sunday for the La Crosse 300. For Dave Burns, Sandy Hang, and the entire TNN crew in Jennerstown, there's the good luck charm for Mike Eddy, little puppy dog Oreo. Thanks for joining us on the broadcast. So long, your winner, Mike Eddy.